Everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Lucia Martel Dow, and I'm the president of the San Mateo City Schools Board of Education. Thank you very much for being here. Sorry we're a little bit late. Before we get started, I will have Principal Joe Dominguez please lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance.
And for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Before we get started, just a reminder that we have Spanish translation today, Cristina. Do we have Spanish translation? Tenemos traducción en español. If you need Spanish translation, you're in the audience, please raise your hand. And if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand on Zoom. Si necesita traducción al español, por favor, avísenos vía Zoom. Muchas gracias. Right now, we're going to announce some of the reportable closed session action items. So the board discussed some items that are enumerated in our agenda. And this is the reportable actions. So during closed session, the board took action on the following agenda items. Consideration of confidential student matter, inter-district transfer case 2324-9 for the high school. And the board decided to uphold the staff recommendation to deny the transfer request for student case inter-district transfer 2324-9 for the high school. This motion was moved by Trustee De Neva Marsh and second by Trustee Kerner, and the motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much for the board. And with regards to the matter of consideration of student expulsion, case 2324-5, elementary school district, the board decided to uphold the staff recommendation to expel student case 2324-5. And it was moved by Trustee Kerner and second by Trustee De Neva Marsh, and the motion passed unanimously. With regards to consideration of student expulsion, case 2224-6, the board decided to uphold the staff recommendation to expel student case 23246, and it was moved by Trustee Kerner and second by Trustee De Neva Marsh, and the motion also passed unanimously. With consideration to student expulsion case 23247, elementary school district, the board decided to uphold the staff recommendation to expel student case 2324-7. It was moved by Trustee Kerner and it was second by Trustee De Neva Marsh, and the motion passed unanimously. Thank you to the board members for all the discussion in this closed session and for the staff representing these cases in front of the board. All right, I would like to have a motion to approve our agenda this evening. Moved by Trustee Kerner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee De Neva Marsh. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. One against, abstention, seeing none, the agenda has been approved. All right, so we have two resolutions this evening. One of them is approval of resolution 232463, recognizing June as LGBTQ and Pride Month. Superintendent, would you like to present this resolution?
Thank you, Trustee Martel Dow. In support and recognition of June 2024 being LGBTQ Pride Month, the resolution staff is recommending the board approve expresses the support for the rights, freedoms, and equal treatment of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ individuals. We recognize that the staff and families, we recognize that these individuals contribute and make contributions and are actively promoting the principles of equality, liberty, and justice. So staff is recommending the board
approval. Thank you very much, Superintendent. Do I have any comments or a motion to pass the resolution, please, to approve of this resolution? I will entertain one with comments.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I really want to thank our staff and our schools and our students for uplifting this resolution. I think it's just really key in terms of the celebration of the diversity of our students and our staff and the communities that we serve. It's not just about pride, it's celebrating all of these pieces. I also want to thank our other partners like the city of San Rafael for their recent Pride Flag ceremony that they had, their second annual just last Monday, and our other neighboring communities like the city of Nevada with their Pride flag raising ceremony, and even the county of Marin. I think it's just key that this is not something that we just do to do. These resolutions are to uplift and to really showcase to our students and our staff and those that are part of our SRCS community that they are seen, they are valued, and they are heard.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion
Motion.
to approve the
To approve the
resolution?
resolution.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second motion.
A second by, moved by trustee Daneva Marsh and second by trustee Kerner. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Abstention? Seeing none, the resolution passes. Thank you very much, Superintendent, for presenting this resolution to the board. And then we also have another resolution, as to celebrate Immigrant Heritage Month. And Superintendent, will you please present the resolution?
Yes, recognizing the month of June 2024 as Immigrant Heritage Month, the celebration of the accomplishments, contributions of immigrants and their children in the making of the United States a healthier, safer, more diverse, prosperous country, and acknowledging the importance of immigrants and their children to the future successes of the United States. Staff is recommending that the board approve resolution 2324-64, Immigrant Heritage Month.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Any comments or motion to approve the resolution?
I have a comment. Again, in the same similar vein, just to really uplift, it's really important since San Rafael City Schools is a multilingual, multicultural community, and the fact that our values behind us are both in English and Spanish. If I had any opportunity to have all of our values listed in multiple languages, I know that I would. But that is not my power. But again, as the child of immigrant parents from the Philippines, and I know some of us on this board have also immigrated from other countries, it just really speaks to values. And so I thank those who put this resolution forth.
Thank you very much. Trustee Kerner?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Moved by trustee Kerner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Daneva Marsh. Before we approval, I'll just, as you said, 3 members of this board are immigrants. So anyway, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Abstention? Seeing none, that motion passes. Thank you for superintendent and the staff for presenting this resolution to the board. All right, we got caught up with time, and now we can go into business. And I am very excited to see Principal Joe Dominguez here, who is our principal of San Rafael High School. And I don't know, Superintendent, if you have any other presentation for Joe Dominguez, but we're excited to have you here and tell us all about San Rafael High School. So thank you for being here.
Good evening, members of the board and cabinet. We just wrapped up day 177.
Oh, wow.
Of 180 days, and I get to have an opportunity to talk to you about what those 177 days entailed and where I'm planning to take us in the next 6 years. I wish I could say I wasn't tired, but I'm exhausted. But I'm so excited to see off the class of 2024 at graduation on Thursday, because they have worked incredibly hard through a pandemic that we're excited to put behind us and really get San Rafael High School and San Rafael City Schools to the directions that we know they can all take it to. This year, our sports and our academics really just went to new heights. We introduced some new systems and programs for our students so that we can really set the academic bar higher than they've been able to achieve before coming back from COVID. And we also went through a 6-year cycle of our WASC accreditation, which really allowed me as a second year as principal to really get to know the school a bit deeper than I had before. We brought in stakeholders that are our teachers and our students and members of the community to reflect on the prior 6 years to set the goals that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But before we get there, just a little bit of a reminder about who I am. My name is Joe Ryan Dominguez. I'm in my second year as principal at San Rafael High School. Before this is my 15th year in public education. I was a math and leadership teacher all at the high school level. I was an assistant principal for 6 years. And this is my 3rd year as principal, though only the 2nd year in San Rafael. Now, year 1, so last year, what I told you all, my focus was going to be to jump into the community and get to know them the best that I could. I wanted to build a community where I saw strengths. I wanted to figure out where our strengths were, identify the areas of growth, and then collaborate with the staff and with the community on the vision. I didn't want to come in year 1 and make any changes, because who am I? I didn't know anything about the city. I didn't know anything about the school. I could only know and learn from what people taught me. But in year 2, so this year, I took those goals and I made some modifications.
Year two, I worked with the community, I worked with my staff, and we identified what changes we wanted to make for this year. We wanted to start small because this, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We wanted to make sure we really fine tune the areas that we wanted to focus on. For those of you that have visited San Rafael, we talked a little bit about that, and I'm always happy to nerd out and talk to you exactly what those changes are going to be as we move forward. But in year two, I wanted to stand for the progress that we said that we were going to make. So this year we set out some priorities, particularly around student engagement, student preparedness, our stance on tardiness, and our stance around cell phones, for example. And I wanted to make sure I stood up for the implementation of what we said we were going to do. So we stand for progress. I still need to work on building community. SR is huge, right? And getting to know each of the individual pockets is difficult, especially for one person. So I continue to work on my ability to get to know even more folks at San Rafael. I also want to make sure this year to support and uplift the things that were already working. San Rafael is rich in history. It has so many things going on for it. Things that people are thirsty to bring back that were lost during the pandemic when we all went home and we were working from our living rooms. And I wanted to refine and develop the systems that I kind of alluded to a little bit ago. And now, since we went through our full WASP cycle, I wanted to build some committees to decide what are we going to do for the next 6 years to take San Rafael to the next chapter of our campus. And so those are my personal goals. Okay. So now, why are we doing this? Because San Rafael represents 1,280 students, and that's not even counting our students that participate in the Bridge program that live with Madrone High School and with San Rafael. Once you add in the Bridge kiddos, that's 1,400 students that we represent, 70% of whom are Latino, 24% are white, 11% of our students are participating in special education, 28% are English language learners. 71% are economically disadvantaged. For all of the reasons you see up there, that's why I got into public education in the first place, and that's what brought me to San Rafael. As I've shared with you individually, I thought I would have to go home to serve a community like ours in Arizona, but now I found my home here and I'm really excited to be a part of it. Now, to help me with that, I have 100+ staff members that are all eager and ready to do the work that is necessary for San Rafael. They just need someone to help them find the direction in the right way, in the right path. That's 73 teachers, 4 counselors, and 7 wellness staff. 20 support and classified staffs, 1 dean, and 3 administrators. They've never seen a school so well-resourced than San Rafael and San Rafael City Schools, and that's a testament to you all and everyone here on the cabinet for helping me and supporting me every single time that we ask for it. Okay. Now, I can talk to you about San Rafael, but I love to just show you a little bit of what the students have to say. School's so well-resourced.
Sorry, I've got my live stream going, and I'm trying to
helping me and supporting me.
help show your video.
We would love to hear about Joe.
The live stream is working.
I
always keep my body
Show
off.
you a little bit of what the students.
So sorry. Can't find it. Sorry, I've got my live stream going.
Hey there, Christina, we'll wait.
Live stream is working.
That's why I grabbed all those beverages earlier. I'm prepared.
Found it. Stop.
I'm a water.
All right, now I have to get back. So sorry.
That's right.
Seems like an issue with our Wi-Fi. Yeah, I'll make sure they see it.
No problem.
This is here.
So the video that I was gonna share was something that was created by our Media Academy. I tasked them last year with developing a way to show me who the school is from their eyes. And they made a series of 9 or 10 videos that I try to show off as many times as I can. And that was one video where they're showing off the programs that are listed here on this slide. So we have a lot to be proud of, and we have a lot to offer the 1,400 students that are on our campus. And we're always looking for ways to expand that. From CTE, we have a construction academy that have literally built 2 tiny homes, and I hope you all had a chance to check it out yourself, but they have fully built from the ground up, from nothing to something that you can live in, 2 tiny homes in the construction academy. Media Academy, Educator Academy, Engineering and Tech Academy, and Digital Music. We have a path for every single one of the students that have a career focus and know where they want to explore. We have AVID, which is common in both TL and an SR, and it is something that is for our students that are first generation college goers. We provide them with the access to college and the resources that they need so that they can apply and be successful. We have honors classes, advanced placement classes. We have 3 visual arts pathways, which is 1 more than we had last year. We continue to offer journalism and access to 28 student clubs and award-winning athletics. So now the reason I wanted to highlight our programs is because I also want to focus on where we're going to be going next. So through our WASP recommendations, we have a series of recommendations that we are going to be focused on through small committees. We're going to look at our SIPSA so we can identify our success on SBAC and LPAC, our redesignation scores. We wanted to make sure that we're providing all the best resources and professional development for our staff. And we want to look at the one thing that's going to be the crux of it all, because we can improve our test scores. We can build community, but if the students aren't here to experience that on their own or to see it in person, then we're not going to have very much success. So the one area that I'm really going to focus on for this presentation is our chronic truancy. This is something that's been a topic nationwide. I know it's a topic of the school district as well, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about our plan for that for next year and moving forward. So right now, our subcommittee on chronic truancy has decided that they want to focus on a goal of lowering our chronic truancy rate from 16.4% where it is now to 12.4%, 4 percentage points by 2030. They believe that we can achieve more than that, but they wanted to start off with a modest goal so then we can really try out some of our strategies beginning next year, if you will. And the reason we wanted to focus on chronic truancy is because it aligns with the district culture around engaging our community and our students, and it makes sure that we really look at our systems and our structures to bring students in. Right now, we identify students that are chronically truant at 12 or more absences. That's not early enough. And so the work that we're going to be doing starting next year is how do we reach families and students to let them know not only do they need to be at school, but we want you to be at school, and we're going to do everything that we can to get you there. And again, the reason I'm going to focus on this area tonight is because I want us to increase our academic rigor. I want us to increase the number of students in our honors and our AP classes, but that's not going to happen if they're not at school to begin with. And so if we focus on our attendance, then I can start increasing the other areas as well. So to build some context into this, here's our current chronic truancy rate. So I told you at the end of 22-23, we're at 16.4 of our students who are chronically truant. Now that's down from 18.5% the year prior, and absolutely down the year prior to that. We are faring better than Marin County and the state, but just anecdotally, schools are measured by their CASP participation rate. We're all looking at 95%. Well, right now I was checking with my assistant principal earlier today, and I was asking him what's keeping us from going from 90% to the 95% that we're expected to reach. And he said, Joe, 20%, or not 20 of the students that we're looking for, that's 10%, 20 are chronically truant. That's why. He's been trying to reach them, but they're just not at school. So we're having a hard time meeting just some basic requirements and other goals because of their absenteeism. Now, the majority of our students that are chronically truant are 11th and 12th graders. Well, those are the students that take the assessments that our schools are measured by. So we need them on campus because once they're there, based on all the programs I just listed for you, we have the resources for them. We have the opportunities for them, but they can't take advantage of something that they're not present for. So that's why we're gonna make this a huge priority for ourselves. So now, here are the challenges though. We have to put the pandemic beside us, okay? Now, we need to allocate our current resources and staffing and interventions to meet the needs of getting to students to school, which means we might have to reconfigure the job expectations of our classified staff, and we might need to bring in staff that are gonna really intervene with students that are absent, not when they hit the 12 absence mark, but well before that. Because by the time a student has missed 2 classes, they've created the cycle for themselves where they are afraid to come back because they've missed so much. We need someone on the phone, we need someone going to the houses and knocking on their doors and saying, we love you, come back to school. No, let's go, it's time to get to school. So then they're not creating this perpetual cycle of absenteeism. The learned behaviors after COVID and the increase of online options have made families and students feel like coming to school is an option, that there's another way to get your learning that's not in-person schooling. And that might be true through certain online programs, but nothing beats what the experience is that you're gonna get in person. Nothing is gonna replicate the programs that I just listed for you a few slides back and the video that you would have seen if we weren't buffering, right? And internet is unreliable, we saw it here today. So we need people in class so they can learn from us. And what I think is a challenge is immediate access to transportation and outreach. Our families are busy, they're working. They trust that their students are making it to school once they've left for work. And if they're not, we need somebody or people to go out there and get them to us as soon as we can. Because at this point, at the high school level, absenteeism is almost a learned behavior. We're combating 11 years or 9 to 11 years of a prior education, prior bad habits. So we just need someone to interrupt that and say, no, we're not going to negotiate with this. You are going to learn and we are going to take you to school because that is what's best for you. And we need time for connections and academics. We need ways either in the evening and on Saturdays for students to make up the opportunities that they've missed because they get to a point, what we've learned, where they have just given up because they don't feel like there's a path for them when it's just the traditional Monday through Friday. So those are our current challenges to make that happen. So our next step, I want to work in partnership with the district to develop a cohesive and comprehensive approach to attendance. I already know that that's a priority of yours and of the superintendent, and we're excited to work together on that. I want to develop extra opportunities for students to make up lost days early. So I've heard from other districts that there is the idea of making up ADA via Saturday school or via evening school. And if I can timesheet and pay for staff to work that, it's going to be easier to build up the confidence of our students who made a decision to be absent maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days. So then it doesn't turn to 4, 5, 6 and up is the goal. I want to reallocate our current staffing and resources to support early contact with absent students. We have 2 community liaisons and we have 1 attendance staff. I don't think that's going to be enough for the types of the level of phone calls that we have to make for a while. I imagine if we do a really good job at stressing the importance of coming to school, we won't need to have so much staff allocated towards attendance, but right now I think that's the focus. And teaching with the staff that it's okay to readjust and allocate your energy towards one area for the time being makes sense because that's what we need right now. So that's a goal of me and my staff over this summer. And I want to connect with families and community to promote a school going culture. We have some ideas that we're floating around about buddy families. A family might sign up to say, I'm having a hard time getting my son or daughter to school. Well, you have this opportunity of signing up with a buddy family. It's a parent that's volunteering to drive your kid to school if you so choose. I want the families to come in and help us, and to help us with supervision, to help us with getting students to school. Whatever is needed, I want families on my campus showing that this is a team effort of everybody. Those are just some of the 10,000 feet steps that we're looking at right now. We have a long way to go. These are just some of the easy ideas that we've been working towards. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but that's where we are at the moment. If you have any questions for me.
That was great, and I am so sorry that Trustee Palma and Trustee Martin are not here because they would have loved to hear from you as well. I'm sure they will be very excited to read your PowerPoint and if they will, I will tell them to reach out if they have any questions. But for the members of the board who are here, do you have any questions, comments for Principal Dominguez?
Thank you for the presentation. I like the conciseness of this too, kind of what the focus was on. I'm glad you're at a place now where you have the momentum and you had the learning years. It feels like that really solidified for you a way to be able to take action. It was interesting to see those numbers across the state. I didn't know that they were that high in the state and then that high across all of the county as well. And I think that's all the public schools, right? Like yeah, I don't have any other specific questions for right now, but I'm anxious to see like how this works and how you find success moving forward. So thank you for this.
don't let this Trojans mug fool you. I totally support all of our, no, I joke and I jest, but I agree with fellow trustees, like if trustee Martina and trustee Palma were here, they'd be centered in community as well. It was great that trustee Palma and I were able to visit San Rafael High School a couple of weeks ago and actually go through exactly what you put in the PowerPoint. I appreciate you uplifting about and highlighting the community liaisons and with the community school partnerships grant, because that's actually going to be my follow-up question about how would we lean into our existing resources, like, because community liaisons have created that built-in trust as resources to not only the students, but the families. There are just some other things I wanna uplift. You might have identified it, or as you form that group. You know, I know we didn't get to see the video, but leaning into your media academy from the student perspective of, okay, this is the pitch campaign, and since we are a multilingual forward district, how would we message this to our students who don't speak English first? How would you message this to our parents? Because it might be a cultural shift, as you noted, not just COVID, but also like, oh, if we've already gone this many days, maybe it's just best for not to attend. So I would love to hear, as we center all of our decisions with keeping students at the center, to see what ideas they have. And I look forward to seeing those videos after our Wi-Fi situation gets handled on. The other parts is, I think about how different messages are received, especially peer-to-peer. So other resources that exist, I know this is not the responsibility of the Student Wellness Center, but I lean into it because we got to see it in action at your campus. I know that you have a chapter of the Student Wellness Ambassador Program that is backboned by Marin County Office of Education, maybe perhaps leaning into other ways to get the message across in partnership other than the ones that you just highlighted tonight. But other than that, I think I appreciate our staff who've created removing the barriers for us to attend and visit all of the 12 school sites. It has really helped as these presentations come in to bring it to life. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this is an excellent, presentation, and I wanna say that the community of San Rafael and the parents have a long-term commitment to the schools, and these are families that have been committed to excellence, committed to having high achievers, and families that for generations have attended San Rafael High. You probably have noticed that as well through your PTA meetings and things of that nature, right? So I just really want to recognize that it's an excellent school with a great community. I have two questions. One of them is about truancy. Can you educate the board about truancy and what are the legal obligations, either by the state, the county, the social services, the schools? So when a child is actually in truancy, isn't that something that we need to pay attention to, because potentially parents are responsible for this? Just so educational purposes, I'm not trying to say that we need to change the great ideas that you brought up, but I'm from a curiosity perspective.
Well, right now, the systems or the procedures that we have in their district is identifying students that are crossing the threshold into chronic truancy. So after 12 or more absences is when we really start having the alarms ring. What I would propose up here is that that's too late. 12 absences, you've lost the student by then. They've learned that absenteeism is okay in some way or another. And at that point, they've also developed so much work that they're backlogged on. It's even a difficult task for the teacher to get the student caught up, because we don't have the time that I was mentioning before. So right now, students are receiving meetings and conferences and letters from the school district at 12, 24, and 36 absences. What we're proposing here is that's still gonna happen, but what are we gonna do at absence number 2 or 3 to make sure that 12 never happens in the first place, hopefully.
Yes, that's good to know. So it's what you're trying to do is a more proactive approach is what I'm hearing from you. All right. What about cell phone use? So I am a little bit concerned personally about cell phone use in both high schools. So I would love to get your thoughts, since I have you here, about what can we improve as a board to ensure we provide that culture and that climate for students for learning.
The summer, before I started at SR, I did a little roadshow with the staff to ask them what they were most concerned about, and cell phones was number one, because the students are just so, it's ingrained in their hand, they don't know how to let go of it. So I watched it by default that first year just to see what we do normally, and the cell phones are everywhere. Kids were in the halls on their phones. I was walking into classrooms and they were on their phones. They just didn't know how to put it away. So this year, one of the priorities that was a huge change was we said all phones away, period. You are warned at the beginning of the year. So we purchased the cell phone pockets in every single classroom, and we told the students, as your first warning, all cell phones need to go in this pocket. Because what I wanted the teachers to do is step away from having that power battle with them. And just so then students know this is a school-wide expectation in every single classroom. If you don't see the phone in that pocket, you don't need to engage in a conversation with the students because your focus is just making sure the phone wasn't visible and out. The moment the phone comes out though, you're gonna notify the office and we're gonna come and we're gonna lock it up. Seems harsh, but it actually works because I agree, because I was worried that it was gonna seem harsh. But
Yeah.
on average, we're only locking up 5 phones a day. So students though throughout the course of the year realize, oh, this phone pocket in my classroom, it's optional. They're not making me put my phone in here. But if I just keep my phone away, then no one's gonna bother me about it. But the moment it comes out, it gets locked up. Well, now that we're on day 177, they found their tricks, as teenagers do.
Of course.
They found their ways through it. So they're taking more hall passes and they're on their phones while they're on their bathroom breaks. It's a problem. Not because I'm some old curmudgeon that don't want students to have their cell phones, but because I've seen the social emotional impacts that it's having on our students and the distractions that it's bringing. And they don't know how to write without the help of their device. So next year, using the pockets is compulsory. Every student needs to put their phone in it. Now, ideally, there are some services that really will lock up a cell phone for every student, but they're a little bit pricey. So we're gonna try the compulsory pocket use, and students may not use their phones in the hallways in between.
No, I'm so glad you're validating this, because one of the things that I would like to propose, and I asked the superintendent, and I think we discussed it in a couple of meetings ago, that we need to change our cell phone policy. So this is validating to what I'm hearing, or what I'm perceiving myself as a parent too. So I think the board will discuss that in the fall, but it seems to me what I'm hearing from you is that potentially having a policy in which we basically ban, or at least we put a policy in place in which the cell phones cannot be used in the classroom. And would that also, do you think we should include not just classrooms, but for example, hallways or other facilities within the school, or how does it feel? I've been going to the high schools, and what I observe is that the kids coming out of the classroom and the first thing they do is take their cell phones out of their pockets. So do you feel, and you don't have your opinion, not necessarily, you will talk about it with the superintendent, but.
No, I
would love
do.
to get your thoughts.
We absolutely have gotten to that point, and I think it was only worsened through COVID. I used to be an advocate for students using their cell phone. When I first got into teaching, that was the biggest rage. Look at everything your phone
Yeah,
can
but it's
help you with,
changing
but
now.
it is fully changed
Yeah.
now. The students don't know how to use it for an academic purpose. It's just for distraction and to disconnect from human interaction. So yes.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Or do you, Mr. Linda, communicate with you about this too? Or you and Katie talk about like the cell phone usage? Is that kind of a common thing?
She and I don't talk too much about it. I think she was maybe a year ahead of me and or two ahead of me in putting up the pockets and providing the cabinets in for it. So I think that they're in a different spot than we are.
Well, I think the board's gonna take this very seriously next year. I'm definitely pushing for this. Putting it out to the superintendent and cabinet, that I think we need to come up with a little bit more strict policies for our students, and maybe even include it in a disciplinary metrics matrix if necessary, so that we make sure they have consequences. All right, this is great. I mean, I'm so grateful that you came here, and great work. We're so excited that you came to the district. Any more questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much, Principal Dominguez. We appreciate it. Thank you.
See you at graduation.
Yeah, and thank you so much for attending the graduation, trustee Ivamash. All right. That was awesome. All right, now we come to announcements and any updates that we have we can start with our board trustees. So trustee Kerner, do you have any updates or anything you would like to share with the board?
Yeah, the biggest update for this week was, or for the session, I attended the inter-district school board celebration that we had for the end of the year. That was good to get to see finally meet other members across the districts. Those connections, I think, become more and more important as we come up with best practices around different things with like different ideas around the AI curriculum or even the cell phones or things like that. It just brings up an idea. Now I have more people I can call and talk to. So I've been traveling quite a bit. So that was the biggest part of my update for this week. I mean, the effort then going into looking through our LCAP and the things we have coming up to finalize before the end of the year is also a big part of the time. But that is the update for now.
Thank you, Trustee Kerner. Trustee Neva Marsh, please.
Well, first and foremost, on that same vein of it's challenging at the end of the school year and there's a lot of traveling, et cetera. But I really want to uplift and congratulate our retirees from San Rafael City Schools, as well as our Alder cohort graduates. I know that we were not able to attend this afternoon celebration, but please do not mistake that we do not honor you or celebrate you. And I think that's the challenging part about being a school board member or just a public servant, that we want to be at all these places, but it's challenging. But I just want to say just thank you to all the retirees. It's not just today that we celebrate you, but all of your work. And then with the Alder graduates, I just want to say that it's so exciting for this cohort because a lot of them are San Rafael City School alumni. And that's wonderful because the hope is to pipeline and inspire folks to come back into our school districts. So I just really want to say congratulations, not only on behalf of me, but and our entire board for those two designations. For the Marin County School Board Association, we had our end of year dinner that Trustee Kerner was present, as well as our Assistant Superintendent Bob Barcucci. But I really want to say that there were 2 student trustees from all of the school districts, one from Nevada Unified, but one from San Rafael City Schools. And I think that's super key because these student trustees are our partners as well. So I just want to say thank you to student trustee Giselle Morales for joining us at our table. They were also able to meet Assembly Member Connolly, who was there, and talk to Miller Creek School District representatives too, because we're all in partnership. So it was really great to uplift, and she's inspired to maybe raise her hand for next year when she goes to high school to be part, hopefully a student trustee, if there's that opportunity. But those are my 2 items for my report.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Trustee Neva Marsh. And in my case, I just want to highlight that I attended the board meeting of the Heads Up Foundation. So they are, we're very grateful for this group of residents, parents, and people who are involved with the foundation that have provided more funding to our schools. And they reported about the results, fundraising results from the carnival and all the contributions that we received. And they were almost at the goal with the carnival. So again, thank you to all the families, because that's one of the main events that the district has to raise funds for our students. And I'm very excited that if they want to, I want to tell you, I know that it's difficult sometimes with the district because you have the contributions that you have to make to your PTA, to the school district, to your school, to your site. But please consider Heads Up as another good partner for you if you want to make a donation to our schools. All right, we don't have student trustees because they're no longer board. So does the superintendent have any updates? I'm sure you've been busy.
Just to thank our retirees, our Alder grads, our staff, our students, our parents for this year. It's been an amazing year for me, my first year, and I'm looking forward to keeping the work, especially in our area of attendance. And I hope everyone has a lovely, wonderful, restful summer.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. All right, let's see our labor partners. Who do we start with? Let's see. CSEA, online?
Seeing none.
No CSEA, all right. I saw Morgan raise his hand, so
Yep.
maybe we go straight to SRFT.
Yep, I will bring over Morgan. Morgan, you can start your video and audio. Over. Should be any second now.
Good evening. For the last time of the school year, I'm Morgan Agnew, President of the San Rafael Federation of Teachers. Thank you to the board and district staff for your support in another great school year. To those of you finishing your last year in our district, thank you for your service and best of luck next year. And to those of you finishing your first year in our district, thank you for coming to work with us here in San Rafael. SRFT would also like to congratulate incoming Assistant Superintendent, didn't mean to get ahead of her there, Cecilia Perez, for her promotion. We look forward to working with Ms. Perez in her new role, and we support the district's practice of hiring internal candidates for leadership roles. That said, for a position as senior as Assistant Superintendent, we urge the board to carefully weigh the pros and cons of an appointment versus a competitive interview process. It is imperative that district leaders have the full confidence of the students, faculty, staff, and communities they serve. And that confidence is only strengthened when those district leaders are selected for their positions through robust, transparent, and competitive processes. On a different topic, as you likely heard in closed session, we are meeting tomorrow with the district's negotiating team with the hope of finalizing contract negotiations for 2023-24 and salary negotiations for 2024-25. SRFT would like to reiterate our commitment to the fair share process of negotiating salaries, not least of which because it enables us to settle compensation before the school year even starts, which was unheard of under our prior practice of positional bargaining. The fair share process doesn't eliminate the need for a back and forth about salaries, but it keeps the conversation grounded in budget realities. Finally, I would like to bring your attention to the ongoing issues we've had with the HVAC systems in the LA building at San Rafael High School. We have 8 members in that building who have recently reported ongoing issues with their HVAC systems, ranging from systems that don't heat or cool effectively, to faulty thermostats, to systems that haven't worked reliably in years. Dave Pedroli and his team have been performing the Sisyphean task of keeping the aging system functional, but it feels like they're the mechanics trying to keep an old Model T on the road when what we need is a new car. There has to be a long-term solution to upgrade the system from one in constant need of repair to one that works reliably, as the HVAC system at TL does. The maintenance and operation team is doing a great job responding to problems as they arise, but they have other jobs to do, and they should not have to work this hard just to keep the classrooms at a tolerable temperature. We have been raising this issue at board meetings and with district staff since at least November of 2021. Some of our classrooms haven't had fully functioning HVAC systems since we returned from distance learning, and we've been telling the district about this problem for 3 years. Our members are frustrated, and to give you fair warning, we are prepared to take collective action next year if that is what is necessary to ensure that our students have a safe, healthy environment to learn in. Please use the summer and all the bond funds you need to make the system work. It doesn't look great when we can afford to build a brand new gym and aquatic center, but we can't even heat our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Morgan. I will, at the end of all the labor partners conversation, I will ask the staff to address your concern, Morgan. Do I have someone from SRTA, please?
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Diaz-Geisels. I'm Brianna Padilla, President of SRTA, representing our educators from early intervention through 8th grades. The 100 days of May, as we like to call it, are over.
Is that what it is?
And our members are closing out the school year with a few highlights to share. First of all, last Thursday, we held a membership meeting to share from our bargaining team the details of our tentative agreements with district leadership. The tentative agreements have been ratified by our members with 96.4% of voters ratifying. We are appreciative, very appreciative to have agreed to a collective bargaining agreement for the upcoming school year and are hopeful in maintaining similar momentum when we bargain the 25-26 contract. We're so used to having to do things the year after the school year that has been happening and dealing with retros and other conversations. So we are very happy with the outcomes of this year's bargaining. We also had elections for our executive board and site reps. Molly and I were reelected. We have site reps that were also reelected at their sites, some that we have some new faces coming in or returning. So we'll share that with you. This is a busy time for all of us. Educators are finishing up report cards. School sites have been having some fun and exciting events for students and staff to be able to have some end of year community building activities. Teachers are preparing for grade level changes in some cases, packing and moving classrooms, And some members are packing, ready to move to the early learning center, which is exciting. As we pack up our spaces and turn in our keys later this week, we are excited for all that we will see at the start of the school year with the construction that has started already around the district, creating and redesigning spaces that have needed some TLC. We hope will bring joy to our students and to our educators and to the community, the school communities overall. It's amazing that even the smallest touches of paint or landscaping can have a huge impact on the pride of a school community. And then lastly, over the summer, you can find some of our SRTA members participating in a variety of optional professional development or PD offerings, which include the teacher leadership team for our secondary members, teaching pyramid for our early elementary teachers, tier 1 classroom management in our K-5 grades, SEAL modules for TK through 5th grade as well. And then there's a few professional learning community or PLC multi-day institutes that some of our members are also attending. So with only one full day left of school, 2 minimum days after that, we end the school year with both bittersweet and joyful emotions and wish everyone a restful summer. And I'll see you again next Monday.
I know,
Yes.
this is great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and congratulations on the being re-elected for you and Molly. So nice to have you and I'm very excited that we were able to finalize the negotiations. The board and everyone is happy about that. So thank you for sharing and being a partner with us. So before I move on, I usually do not direct the staff, but I will ask the superintendent if she or somebody within the team would like to give an update about the HVAC system. We have heard this so many times and I think the board would like to hear about this as well. And it's in my conference, so I don't know, superintendent, who would like to give us an update or? Mr. Marcucci?
Sure. We've been providing and in communication with our high school union and the teachers impacted all along the way.
Yeah.
We've been working with not only our staff, but with experts in the field that have come in to try to help us determine what the issues are. Some of those issues are I think related to the strain that the pandemic put on a lot of these machines. Some of the issues that we're finding out are around our ability to properly maintain some of the units. And so we are working not only with Dave Pedroli and the maintenance and operations team, but we've actually tasked our bond program to look more deeply into it and help us potentially find a way using bond funds to come up with the long-term solution that Morgan speaks about. So I just want to, I don't have any definitive, I'm gonna wave my wand on Wednesday and the thing's gonna be perfect. But what I will say is, and Morgan alluded to this, is that all along the way, our staff we have not stopped and looked the other way, wishing the problem would go away. We've been trying to solve it. And as soon as we get one thing figured out, something else happens. So it's been an ongoing, obviously frustrating for all involved process.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard, I think from Tim last time that we were thinking about using bond funds to actually address potentially this issue. Is that correct? Because I heard some of this and I wanna make sure the public knows that we are considering this.
Absolutely. We're actually entering in a contract with the mechanical engineer to look for a solution. We've done some initial diagnostics and we have a meeting set up next week with Dave, with M&O, I'm sorry, to get to the bottom of this. I wasn't prepared for a presentation.
No, that's
but
okay.
I
You
wanna
can
let
follow up
know that
later. I don't like to surprise the staff, but this time I wanted just to get an update of.
11 months on the job and this is a priority.
Thank you.
So we're on it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. Appreciate the staff for the flexibility to answer this. Because we heard it a few times, so I would like to be able to provide an answer. So thank you. All right. Okay, so now is the time to provide comments from non-agendized items. So just for the members of the public, if there's an item that is in the agenda, I will ask you to comment when the agenda item is discussed during this evening. So right now, I will open it to the public in case someone has any comment, any public comment, or for an item that is not in the agenda this evening. I have a lot of blue cards, but I presume they are for the surplus property because of what I'm seeing here. But is there anyone here who was provided a blue card who is about something else that is not the surplus properties? Okay, thank you very much. Do I have anyone on Zoom, Christina, to make a
Those on
comment?
Zoom, can you use the raise hand? Seeing none.
Seeing none, all right. So now we are gonna move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion or should we have any, or do we have any comments first, about any consent agenda items from the public or on Zoom? All right, trustees, do you have any items you would like to pull for discussion?
I don't have anything in the book.
Neither do I.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve all the items in the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by trustee Kerner and a second by trustee Geneva Marsh. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against, abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously and we approve all the items in the consent agenda. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on now to the staff reports, and this is about the surplus property. And I have the blue cards here for members of the audience. And I have a lot. So I am gonna limit to 3 minutes. But if you can take less time than that, we will appreciate it. But I will limit to 3 minutes public comments, and I will have our director of communications to keep time. So this is random, so I'm sorry if you were here for a while and we have to make comments and you will be here because I have done it randomly depending on how I got the cards. All right, so let's start with Deborah Amherst, okay. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the last names.
I'll put my timer on. Hi, I'm Deborah Arist. I'm a neighbor of Santa Venetia. I live at 454 Upper Road where I both work and live. I've been in the community here in that area for about 15 years now. And I use the marsh quite frequently to walk around with my neighbor. I am totally excited by this proposal for the community center. Obviously, it's a building that is dilapidated. It's an unused area. It's got nothing going on and it has so much potential. I wanted to bring up the fact too that I just went to the Mill Valley Music Festival, which was generated out of their community center and the park adjacent to it. And it was an absolutely fabulous experience. It brought not only a lot of the neighbors who look forward to it every year, but it also brought in people that I talked to from San Francisco and the East Bay and Sonoma. So, and it also helped produce more of a business support, which in our area is Santa Venetia Market and the Basque restaurant and the Italian restaurants across the way. I think for me, I'm an agent for photographers and directors, and I'm used to going out. Of course, the pandemic took all my tools away for meeting people, and I rely heavily on anything that's organized toward the community. I'm a member of a club in the city. I just became a member of a new club that's on 4th Street in San Rafael, and I pay for these things because meeting people is vital to not only my mental health, my fun, and my business. And the support that having this community center near me, where I live and love, I think would be just incredible. So I can't really say much about it. I mean, other than the fact that to me, it's like a no-brainer. You know, why would you not have something that there's an incredible offer on the table to purchase the property and it will be guided with such beauty and diligence? I think it would be an exceptional thing. And I do know that too, you know, we had the possibility of all sorts of crazy development on Heron Hill that got dealt with. There's just so many pros about this. So I want to thank you for the time and hope it works out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll have Shelley Sweet. that right? Thank you, Shelley.
Hi, I'm Shelley Sweet, and I'm highlighting portions of a letter that my husband, John Metcalf, and I submitted for this meeting regarding the purchase of McPhail's surplus property for Santa Venetia Commons. The current list of active community centers in Marin County includes Tam Valley, Belvedere, Homestead Valley, Stinson Beach, Bolinas, Corte Madera, San Rafael, Isabel Cook, San Geronimo Valley, Terra Linda, Hamilton Community, and Marinwood Community Center, to name a few. A community center and park, much like the ones I just listed, are very much needed in Santa Venetia. And we must take lessons from the original habitants of this land, the Coast Miwok, and their understanding of how to rightfully steward the land and resources we have today to hand off to future generations. You can imagine a sprawling and productive community of Coast Miwok people working together along the Las Colinas watershed, from the highlands of Terra Linda and San Pedro Mountain to the lowland areas along San Pablo Bay where food sources were plentiful. The Coast Miwok managed and tended this ecosystem, balancing shared land use among competing interests for the protection of its people, resources, environment, and future descendants. School systems and education play a vital role in this endeavor to rightfully steward the land and resources we have today. And this can continue with the Santa Venetia Commons at the McPhail location. This is the moment for the community of Santa Venetia, with the collective leadership of the San Rafael School Board, Santa Venetia Community Center, the Pizzala Foundation, the Santa Venetia Neighborhood Association, and the McPhail's Working Group to come together after all these years to create a plan and purpose for a center of community to envision, enable, and support the development of a community center and park for the people of Santa Venetia, for all the people who cared for the land long before modern Marin came into being, and hopefully for many generations to come, who will thank us for preserving the habitat and providing a sustainable space where parents, children, family, friends, and visitors can gather, enjoy their local neighborhood, and appreciate and learn what it was like when earlier communities tended these fertile lands. Thank you for your continued support and consideration.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Bonnie Monty. Bonnie Monty.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Monty. I live in Santa Venetia. And I wanted to speak briefly about the community plan. That was a group of neighborhood residents from all parts of Santa Venetia that we worked with the county for a plan that was adopted in 2017. And we specifically called out the McPhail site and our concern about it being a sensitive habitat, being adjacent to wetlands and the creek. And in that plan, which was documented, we did talk about preserving it for use by the community and also limiting development so that we could preserve the habitat, and how throughout the plan was really the sentiment that people love living in Santa Venetia because of the nature and the open space, and we'd like to keep that in the community. I also want to speak briefly for the Galinas Watershed Council. I'm a member of that too. And that is an advocacy group, volunteers for the whole watershed from the headlands down to San Pablo Bay, running through Santa Venetia. And this proposal is such a great synthesis of our objectives of preserving the land, of being sensitive to its use, and also educating, having resources for educating kids and adults about this tremendous resource that's right in our backyard. We're so lucky to have this. The marsh, the creek, the wetlands, and then Heron Hill, and connecting it for wildlife. So I just think the proposal is a great mix of the neighborhood's desires. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jack West.
I'm Jack West. I'm the lead author on our proposal for Posla. I'm the co-founder of Posla. So nice to get to see some of you again. I was here a few weeks ago. I didn't get to see you though. So so anyway, I just there's a lot in the proposal. I'm not going to try to hit all the points. I'm hoping that you've all had a chance or will have a chance to read it. But I just wanted to highlight a couple of things now. And in particular, I wanted to just talk about the de facto parkness of McPhail now. It's been essentially a park for the neighborhood for a long time. And when I walked through there a couple of days ago, there was a group of teenagers playing a pickup game of softball. There was 2 people walking their dogs, one guy doing Tai Chi, and I could hear the little baby herons on the hill above that were screaming at their mom for food. So that's what it is now to the community, and it's an amazing thing that we have there. And when this opportunity presented itself, and by the way, thank you for this opportunity. We are incredibly grateful that this is even something that we can talk about. So we're excited about the opportunity. And when the opportunity presented itself to not only, continue this de facto park, but to actually improve it and add picnic tables and turn it into a really proper park, to restore the wetlands that are there. But then to combine that with this idea of a community center, somewhere where we can have programs, after school programs, we can have programs for seniors and all this type of stuff. It's really gotten our community just incredibly ecstatic and excited about the potential. I'm getting to know all kinds of neighbors that I never even knew. So this whole process is already creating an amazing community experience, and I can't wait for the potential to be able to go through a whole visioning process with the neighbors and really figure out what we want to do to create this amazing Santa Benicia Commons that we're talking about. There's one more quick point I wanted to make, which is that with respect to the appraisal, getting down to the business of it, and I very much hope that we can sit down and start to talk about the details of the proposal. But there is some complications with respect to how many homes you can put on the property. We spent a number of phone calls with the building department to try to figure out what that number is, due to the fact that the wetlands and the 100-foot buffer region don't allow, you don't get to have credit for those areas when you count the number of homes, which was a very confusing thing when we were trying to figure that out. Of course, that's critical to understanding the appraised value. And so initially our appraiser thought it was 70, and then that ended up being knocked down to 44 after quite a few discussions with the building department. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that point up, which is I think there could be some confusion with other appraisers as well. And we would love the opportunity just to sit down and try to figure out what the correct number is of homes that you could fit on there, which of course drives the valuation of property. So just want to make sure I brought that up. And a little side point to that also, which is that it's clear the value of the property is going down because of climate change. In other words, as the waters are rising, you're losing value in that.
Thank you very much, Mr. West. Yeah. All right, thank you, appreciate your comments. Christina West.
Hello, I'm Christina West. I'm a neighbor of the McPhail's property. We live right alongside of it for last over 10 years. And Jack and I created our foundation, Posla, after we sold our solar company. We did a lot of work with school districts, with universities, community centers, and parks. One of the things we've done with our foundation is to preserve 3 properties or help preserve 3 properties in Marin for community use. But what I wanted to talk about is our history of education, or supporting education and after-school programs. One of our projects, we're the flagship donor of the Girl Project in Oakland that provides after-school programs and a safe space for people who are at risk for human trafficking. It's been going on for 10 years. They provide resources, education, a food pantry, and empowerment workshops. And Posla has provided 80 to 90% of the funding during this time. Some of the graduates of the program have gone on to win scholarships to college and have come back to work for the program. So we're very proud of that. Another project is Indigenize Energy, we provided seed funding to provide training for Indigenous youth to learn business as well as the installation portion of solar so that they can rehabilitate their land and their communities. We provide, we've created and funded multiple fellowships in renewable energy and sustainable living communities for various universities. We support 4 artist collaboratives in Marin with ongoing endowments. And one of those artist groups actually lives next to the McPhail site. We have a property that we converted into 2 units of affordable housing for musicians. And one of the musicians living there is on the staff for the after-school program, Oaktown Jazz. And he's super excited. He couldn't make it here tonight, but he's coming next week. He's super excited about starting an after-school jazz program at the Newkins Community Center. So just wanted to stress that we understand the importance of providing spaces for youth after school, as well as providing education.
Thank you very much, appreciate it, thank you. Next I have Dave Court.
Hi, nice to be here. My name's Dave Court. I actually live in Lagunitas, brought my kids up there, and for 32 years, I was the executive director of the San Geronimo Valley Community Center. For over 35 years, I've known Jack and Christina. And about a month ago, I read in the IJ about the surplus property, and I was really interested in it because our community center, the San Geronimo Valley Community Center, we're in a surplus building on the property of the Lagunitas School District. We've had that building for 54 years now. So I've been living, school community partnership, my entire adult life and throughout my career. And I know the incredible benefits of those partnerships. And I got to work very closely with your trustee Mo for many, many years through that. I recently retired last summer, but I still have a position as a community ambassador there. But then, so I read about the IJ, and then about a week later, I learned that this was the Jack and Christina were working on it through their foundation. So I got, really excited about this. And Jack and Christina and some of the other folks from the group came out to the San Geronimo Valley Community Center and met with me and our now executive director, Alexa Davidson. And we spent almost a whole afternoon together, walking, through our community center, which is right onto the school campus, and just talked about our community school programs. And, I just get really excited about this. I got involved in the community schools movement in around 1991 when those Healthy Start grants came out, which San Rafael had one, Marin City, and the Shoreline District. And in fact, that's how I got to know the Gonzalez family. Your community schools director, Pepe Gonzalez, who's one of my favorite people on the planet, was actually a student. My wife ran the after school program. So we've known Pepe and his brother and sister since they were kids. So I'm just here to say that our community center is really supportive of this. We've lived this for over 50 years, me over 30 years. And I just feel this movement in Marin about our community schools. And I just see this marriage between this project and your school district to be a really rich one. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Next I have Robin Gaspare. No, I'm sorry, I'm just like a writing.
Yeah, you got it right.
Perfect.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are longtime residents of Santa Venetia, 43 years for being precise. And we we wanted to see that that property it will turn into something very, very useful for our community, for the children of Santa Venetia, or anybody else who wants to join. So my wife and I, we very hope so that the property will go to the Santa Venetia Commons and the foundation of Jack and Christina West very much. We live right above the property as well. And it will be great if it will be turned into a wonderful community park, a community center where everybody can join in. Perhaps a little park, a little playground for the children. They don't have too many places to go around there, a little playing field, something of that matter. And my wife will say a couple words here,
Okay.
probably the same line.
Basically, he just read everything off of what I was gonna read. That's okay, I'm gonna read it anyway. And everyone has already mentioned practically everything I'm gonna say, but here we go. Some various hopes that I have would be to see a pretty park-like setting with common grounds, such as a picnic area, children's playground, dog park. Something similar to perhaps Chrissy Field in San Francisco. Bike trails, sports playing field, exercise apparatus, restore wetlands and promenade boardwalks, providing views of the beautiful natural surroundings that are already there and wildlife. And ultimately, along with a small environmental education center and a place for music, of course. Jack and Christina's music needs to be heard. But that's basically what I have to say, and I'm so thankful that our neighbors have gotten involved, because that's amazing that they took this hurdle upon their shoulders to even do this.
All right.
Quite frankly.
Well,
Thank you both.
Thank you
Thank you so
all.
much, thank you. Then we have Hoya Clements. Joyce, I'm sorry. I'm reading in Spanish, I'm sorry.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joyce Clements. I'm a 15-year resident of Santa Venetia. I've been a member of the Santa Venetia Neighborhood Association for the entire time. And we've been on the CSA Parks Committee for the community, and 55-year resident of Marin. I would like to mention some interesting demographic data about Santa Venetia. There are 4,300 people who live there. 32% of the population is 65 years and older. That is higher than the state percentage of 16% in most communities. 50% of the people are over age 50. 73% own their own home and have paid taxes to support local schools since adulthood. 18% of the population is under 18. 65% of residents identify as white, 23 Hispanic or Latino, and 12% of other races. And interestingly, of all these people, 62% of the population is female. Here are two pertinent and important facts about the community in regards to the McPhail's property. There are no indoor public meeting spaces in Santa Venetia. Secondly, there are no outdoor public meeting spaces in Santa Venetia that are protected from the sun or inclement weather. Access to and use of a center in Santa Venetia is a much needed resource for everyone. And a much needed resource for everyone who lives in Santa Venetia, but particularly for the 1,400 people over 65 who live in the community. For older people to have a place to be able to safely gather and share with each other. And very importantly, have some interchange with younger people is essential. Both quality and longevity of life are the rewards of social connection. We all know that. Yet there is no covered indoor or outdoor public commons option for seniors in Santa Venetia now. If the San Rafael School Board awards the sale of the McPhail surplus property to the Pizzala Foundation, the dream of full community life and activity for all ages will become a reality in Santa Venetia, as it is in most other communities in Marin. Thank you.
This is great.
Thank you.
Next we have Linda Levy. Linda.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for letting me speak again. I came before you and spoke on May 13th and May 28th. So I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but here goes. My name is Linda Levy. I live in Santa Venetia, but I have also lived in Marin for 50 years. I've lived in Santa Venetia for 35 years, and I've been a neighborhood volunteer for most of that time. I've served on the board of the Santa Venetia Neighborhood Association, also known as the SVNA, for approximately 30 years. And I too serve on CSA 18, the Marin County Advisory Board for Parks in Santa Venetia since 2008. I'm commenting on the surplus and sale of the McPhail school site because what happens on this site greatly affects us personally as well as our whole community. Over the past 3 decades, my partner and I have been involved in one way or another in discussions regarding the possibilities for the abandoned McPhail school site. The SVNA and McPhail's working group have held meetings, met with representatives of the San Rafael School District, Marin County, and other nonprofit groups and neighborhood residents, soliciting ideas for this site. In all the meetings we held and or attended, the requests we heard most were for a community center, neighborhood park, and or wildlife area, something to complement the nearby marsh and sensitive areas on the property. As long as we've lived here, neighbors have been using the site for recreation and neighborhood gatherings. So we were thrilled that our neighbors put together a plan to create the Santa Venetia Commons. This plan that includes a community center and a park. A community center site would mean so much for Santa Venetia. Currently, the SVNA holds meetings approximately every other month, and we're always jockeying for space to hold them. We have the enthusiasm, but what we don't have is a permanent meeting space. Our meetings include events such as National Night Out, where we're visited by the sheriff and fire departments. Our supervisor, right here, gives her annual State of the County update. Other representatives, candidates for office, county staff, and others present to update us on new policies, opportunities, and or social events. We just had Gabriella, and I can't pronounce her last name, I'm sorry, come and talk to us about the upcoming Marin County Fair.
Colicchio.
Say it again?
Colicchio.
Colicchio, that's right. It will be great to be able to hold those events in our new community center. We ask that when you consider the offers you may receive for this property, you give the Santa Venetia Commons proposal special consideration. It is everything we as a community have wanted and hoped for on this site. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is this Mary Hanley or Hank Hanley?
Hanley?
Yes, Hanley. Perfect. Mary, okay.
Hello, school board, thanks again for your time, and my name is Mary Hanley, I'm from Santa Venetia, and I'm here to lend my support to the Santa Venetia Commons project at the McPhail School. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope you are too when you see the proposal. I just want to start with my glasses, I'm sorry. This is very important, so I wanted to read this. On May 1st, me and my partner Linda met with members of the board of Marin Conservation League. And we explained the new vision to them for the McPhail site. This is very early on in the process. So like I said, it's May 1st we met. And we had asked them for their support and guidance. And both co-presidents, Kate Powers and Nona Dennis, which I'm sure you all know, agreed to help us out. Which we know MCL is invaluable when it comes to input and helping and people that have projects like this. So we're very happy to have them, and their input is invaluable. And MCL has worked with us on many projects in the neighborhood before, and because of our experience and reputation in working with them, there was no hesitation from either one of the co-presidents to join and agree to work with us. So we really appreciate that, and I'm sorry I didn't get a support letter from them, but I still can, and if you want, or You can just call and ask them and they'll tell you they talked to me. So anyway, I'd like to have that on the books. So very quickly, I'd like to just remind you of the Santa Venetia Community Plan from 2017. It's something, it's our holy grail. It's something that we live by in the neighborhood and we're very happy to have with us and for our use. And also is the mention of the McPhail's property on page 58, if you're interested, where we talk about the only place in our neighborhood for a community center, a place for us to get together. And everybody knows McPhail's is the best site for us. And it's the only site left in the neighborhood. So I was just really pleased to, back then in 2017 to see it. And it just made, we had to make a new map for McPhail's and this is it. We got the big gym on it because it's the gym of our neighborhood for a community center. If nobody recognizes it, it's the one with the gym, that one. And so it just comes automatically when we're talking about a community center. It's, yeah, McPhail's. It'll be perfect for us. So I'm embarrassed to say, but it was this morning only when I read the proposal that our two power couples, nonprofits in the neighborhood got together and melded minds and came up with such a fantastic idea and vision for the property, something that we in the community plan could not even imagine, let alone see this come together. It's just a thing of beauty and I'm so proud of them. So we had to have, and if you have seen the new proposal, you'll see all the new people that have added for comment. So I added one more map with Santa Venetia and it is very recognizable. It's this one.
Thank you.
McPhail's is gonna be the heart of Santa Venetia with this proposal and community center.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
comment.
you.
Appreciate it. Next we have Giselle Block.
Thank you for your time tonight. I just wanted to speak a little bit. You may already be aware, but there's quite a bit of natural resources, as you've heard, on site, but also surrounding the site. So my name is Giselle Block. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 2 decades, and I've worked just as long as a wildlife biologist in the San Francisco estuary, of which Galenas Creek is a part of. I co-chair the Santa Venetia Community Plan, which you've heard lots about. And a primary reason why I moved to Santa Venetia was really the incredible natural resources that are at that site and that surround us. For the last 2 decades, the community has watched over this property for the district, essentially, particularly keeping a watchful eye for dumping and illegal activities that are often associated with a vacant and seemingly forgotten property. Despite the visual blight on our community for the past 2 decades, we love the site because of its value as an open space where the community gathers and its role in preserving natural resources on and adjacent to the McPhail's property. Fully developing the site per its potential via zoning could have significant increases in the built environment at that site. This would impact the freshwater wetlands on the site. This would impact the tidal wetlands immediately north of the property, immediately adjacent, that host federally endangered clapper rails and state threatened black rails. The site is also closely connected to China Camp State Park, a national estuarine research reserve. One of the reasons for this rare national designation is because connectivity between the tidal wetlands and uplands. McPhail's has a similar feature. You have the tidal wetlands to the north and the Galenas watershed and nothing in between. There's a road, there's open space. Many would argue we could engineer our way out of the flooding issue the site holds, and even engineer our way out of the sea level rise effects that property will feel in the coming decades. But what we cannot undo is the effects of the built environment. And it is the built environment that has contributed to listing of the species that the little pockets of marsh that are left hold. So preserving the open nature of this property, as the Santa Venetia Commons proposes, would continue the benefit this property provides to our community and would help preserve the natural resources on and surrounding the property for current and future generations. Lastly, I just wanted to tell a little story that really gets to you've heard a lot about the educational value and all these other values, but the natural resource value, without even people recognizing it, during COVID, when we were all cloistered in our neighborhoods. The coyotes would come out and howl on that property, and at sunrise every day, the whole community would howl.
Thank you so much. I remember that. That's lovely. Shirley McGrath. We only have 3 more comments before we go on Zoom.
Hi, my name is Shirley McGrath. I've lived in Santa Venetia since the 1970s, and my daughter went to McPhail School for kindergarten. So I've been around a long time. In that time, I was a member of what was then called the Santa Venetia Improvement Association. It's now the Santa Venetia Neighborhood Association. And I do want to say, I have never been as proud to be a Santa Venetian as I am tonight. When I was back in the early 80s, I was on the board and we got a grant from the Buck Foundation, and it wasn't a lot of money. It was, I don't know, $1,500 or something. But what it did was gave us the printing cost to do a survey of the entire neighborhood. And there were maybe 6 of us volunteers that went door to door in Santa Venetia. I believe it was 600 something homes, and asked people to see what they wanted in Santa Venetia. Overwhelmingly, they wanted a community center. Those records are someplace. I don't know where they are, probably in the archives of the Buck Foundation. But it definitely has been the desire of our community for ages. The result of that was, I believe, and I don't have any real backup, but I believe that money and that interest went toward the Jewish Community Center, which is also in Santa Venetia, but as somebody pointed out, it's not within walking distance of our senior citizens. It's not within the ability for little kids to go there. So without getting in a car and driving. We want our own community center. And I really appreciate your considering this wonderful proposal of the Santa Venetia Commons. One more thing is I was involved in the Presbyterian Church in Santa Venetia way back when it was still the Presbyterian Church. And we did have an after-school program for children in the neighborhood, which was very well attended. Recently, my husband died, and at his memorial, we had a gathering at my house afterwards. And one of the kids there said, I was at that child. I was at that child center.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for being
really
here.
appreciate it. So we need it.
Thank you.
2 more comments, and just for the staff to know, and I think before I open it for Bob for comments, we'll go to Zoom, but I will take a break between this item and the next one, just like a 5-minute break. MJ Staples?
Hi, my name is MJ. I am a new resident of Santa Venetia. I moved here with my young family and 2 dogs a couple months ago. And as an observer and new resident, I've witnessed nothing short of extraordinary measures of this community, cultivating community with no gathered space, no dedicated gathered space. Just walk by Pueblo Park on a weekday and you'll see Tai Chi, you'll see pickleball tournaments, you'll see kids and parents and retirees. Everyone is gathering together in this small little park in the neighborhood. So just imagine when you have this collective of artists and engineers and entrepreneurs and retirees and parents. You have this collective of people put something together like a community center. Just imagine it's going to be nothing short of extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The last comment I have in here is Jacqueline Garcia.
I also submitted a card. My name is Gina.
What is Gina? Maybe I skipped you. My apologies for that. I will call you after this. Apologies, my apologies. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, I'm Jackie Garcia. I am a resident of Santa Venetia and a neighbor of the property. I'm also a former flood board, flood zone 7 board member. I have 2 students at San Rafael High School. My husband and I are also graduates of San Rafael High School. And I consider myself the unofficial garbage lady of the property. Daily. Right now, it is a community center, but not for the likes that we want to bring into the community center. I am grateful for this opportunity and think it's a great opportunity. And I just, with everything I've heard, I get the feeling that it could be similar to what Marinwood has at their community center, where they have like music in the park and they have art shows and they have after school community center, they have services, they have that, and similar to like the community garden that's here that I just walked through myself, which is really amazing. And then I also, when I was hearing the proposal, I was picturing Pickleweed Park with the satellite library room, the community gardens, the courts and the fields, which having kids growing up in the school district, we need all the fields we can get. And then I would just say, in addition to the herons that are across the street, right, the last 3 years, I've watched red-tailed hawks breeding, and they use the trees like with the flying, which is really cool. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you so much for waiting. I apologize to rescue you. Gina Hagen.
Hi, thank you so much. So good evening, everyone. Superintendent Gisels, Chair Martel Dow, trustees and administrators and staff. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share our perspectives with you. My name is Gina Hagen and I've lived most of my life in Santa Venetia. I live about a block away from the McPhail site and my sister went there. So I remember some of my earliest memories walking her to school, and I have 2 kids who are school age kids in San Rafael. And I also serve as an advisory board member on our CSA 18 Parks Board. And I'm the president of the Santa Venetia Neighborhood Association. As you know, or as you may know, we're a community of around 4,000 people, nearly 40% of whom are children under the age of 18 or who are elderly. Many would say that we are an underserved community and that we lack safe, healthy public places where people can be together. We desperately need a place in our neighborhood where everyone from youth to our elders can go to find community and experience joy, values that we and our San Rafael City schools share. We hope to have a place where people can be together and engage in healthy social interactions, like having fun, after school programming, the arts, tutoring, sports, somewhere teens can just hang out and not be getting in trouble for being teenagers. A place for community meetings and for our elders to gather, a place where all are welcome and there are things to do. Third spaces are places where we can spend time with others to engage in shared interests or try something new. But the key to that idea is that it's in a place where people can go to be themselves or enrich themselves that's outside of the home or work environment or school environment for younger people. It's separate from those places. It's somewhere everyone is welcome and can engage in with each other in community. My 15-year-old says kids and elders need spaces to interact with other people, especially ones that are close to their home. It would be a great way to provide job or volunteer opportunities for teens, a place where kids can safely be kids and play and have fun. And they continue to say, we need a place for our youth and elders to be together. It could be an educational opportunity where a younger person is paired with an elder to learn about their life and experiences and teach them about theirs, and learn about Santa Venetia's history in particular. This way the elders can connect with youth and the younger generations can learn about what Santa Venetia was like in the past and how it's changed so that those perspectives don't get lost to time. That's one perspective.
So we have a strong desire to add value to the community by creating a place where those kinds of things can actually happen. We imagine that Santa Venetia Commons can be that third space. We sincerely hope to realize this dream. Please consider the offer from Santa Venetia Commons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To go to business, if we have any public comments, I'm gonna limit it to 1 minute.
I am so sorry, I forgot one thing. Can
I'm so
everyone
sorry.
that came from Santa Venetia stand up so you'll see how many of us are here?
Yeah,
I can say that. All of us didn't speak.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
No, needs no public.
Those on Zoom, can use the raise hand feature.
Right.
Seeing none.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here, and I will turn it to Bob. I don't know if you have Mr. Marcucci, our superintendent of Mr. Marcucci, do you have any
Trustee Bob.
updates?
Just kidding.
And just to synthesize what I've heard
Yes.
tonight, I think they want a community center. Just want to be clear about that. I just wanted to provide an update in terms of the district's process and where we are at. And so, pardon me for just sort of reading this off a little bit, but under the Brown Act's meeting and notice requirements, tonight's really the first time that the board has been permitted to discuss the written offers that we received from public and eligible nonprofits through the priority offering process. And we received those offers over 10 days ago, and we're because of the Brown Act's parameters, this is really the first time the board's been able to discuss these. So we'll be reviewing written offers this evening to determine which are compliant and with the notice requirements that we sent out. This week, district staff will be reaching out to those public and nonprofit entities that submitted an offer to acknowledge the receipt of those offers. And the district will be providing an update on the anticipated timeline for negotiations and when updates will be provided to the public at the board meeting on June 17th. We'll also be posting all updates on the district's surplus property website, which we've been doing all along and will continue to. In the meantime, please continue to direct all questions regarding this process to somebody named Bob Marcucci. I guess that would be me, but you could, the best thing to do would be to email businessservices@srcs.org. And that will ensure that we're able to receive any communications from the community and either respond to those or get you to the right people that need to respond. So that's my update on surplus for this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marcucci. And I just want to reiterate the gratitude for submitting for you and all the members, all the organizations that provided some proposals to the district. And we will be discussing that in closed session for the first time. So the board have seen the proposals, but as Bob Marcucci mentioned, we're just gonna start discussing it and then we'll explain the timeline for our decision making. And we'll make sure that we will update our website and any kind of communication so that the public understands what the timeline is gonna be and how we're gonna go about communicating with all of you about our decision process. All right? So thank you very much for being here, and I'm gonna have a recess for 5-minute recess, all right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Calling open session. All right, so my agenda, here it is. Okay, so now we are gonna start our public hearing. So I officially have to start a public hearing statement saying we're now go to public hearing, right? Because we're gonna be discussing the LCAP. No, sorry, the budget first. Sorry, the budget. We still, it's a public, so we have two public hearings today. The budget and the LCAP. Is that right?
Yes, we have 4 public hearings.
Oh,
One for elementary budget,
Yeah.
high school budget, elementary budget.
Yes.
High school.
okay, perfect. So we will get started, I think, with the budget. And that will be to Mr. Marcucci. Perfect.
And I'll do, thank you, President Martel Dow, and I will do a presentation that encompasses information for both districts.
That's great.
And then you can
Takes time.
close the public hearing for elementary and then open it for high school and close it for high school, but there's just one presentation.
Thank you for that, and please remind me if I forget to close.
I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so first, we're talking about the 24-25 budget adoption. And this is the moment where we take our first stab at budgeting for the coming fiscal year and school year. And I want to highlight that word budget, right? Because a budget sets the priorities for how we spend our dollars, but it also is a budget and it will change, and we will provide updates at first interim, second interim, and all along the way. And I want to just give a huge thank you to Taiwo Madison, our Director of Fiscal Services, and all the work and many late nights and working through technological issues and things that to kind of land upon this, this first draft. Also want to thank Chris Pozadell and her team as well. So let's just start with highlights, because we all know, as Tylo said, nothing clears a room like a budget report. So I may only have you for the first few slides here, but I want to just say there was really no significant impact for education funding from the governor's May revise. Our governor and legislature have really held education harmless over a series of years. So nothing huge groundbreaking to report. There was an increase in the cost of living adjustment from 0.76% to 1.07%. So that certainly is, trending in the right direction. Doesn't add a huge windfall of funding, as you might imagine. This budget is utilizing and assuming the budget reductions that the board approved that are implemented, and some of which are implemented but are ongoing efforts that we'll need to make. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We're updating projected revenues and we're setting budgets for all the funds. We're using updated assumptions such as the STRS rates, the PERS rates, new average daily attendance projections. And when we look at the multi-year projection and the reserves, I'm just gonna lead with the elementary district looks really steady. The high school district is on watch with me right now. And that's, there's sort of two slightly different stories here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So it all starts with the local control funding formula, and you can see the bolded column there for 24-25. And just as a reminder, the local control funding formula is a calculation that's based on a number of statewide assumptions plus our average daily attendance projections. And it all gets sort of boiled in. There's a huge spreadsheet that goes along with this that's actually pretty impressive. And we are given this calculation for which we then build our budget. So in the elementary district, you can see the base grant is a little over 44 million. Then there's a grade span adjustment. You get a slight bump for TK through second grade, and I think there's another one in 4th through 7th grade. There's just a sort of an adjustment that the state gives you of 2.2 million. And then we have our supplemental and concentration funds, and supplemental and concentration funds are driven by the students who are English language learners, homeless and foster youth, unduplicated students. There's sort of 2 tiers. When you're over 50%, you get that supplemental. When you hit over 70%, you start to get the concentration. And so you can see for the elementary district, we have $12 million. That it's 13, 6.9 and $6 million. The presentation you're going to see about the LCAP is really talking about that $12 million. And then we have some funds that come to us for home to school transportation, $755,000. That pays for maybe 35% of our actual transportation costs. So we have the state transportation funding, we have a grant from the Transportation Authority of Marin, or the Measure AA dollars, which is usually somewhere between 300 to 350,000, and then the district uses its supplemental and concentration funds to pick up the remainder. And then we have the TK add-on, and that's obviously some funds that the state provides because we're adding a new grade level, and so we have that 679,000. So we're looking at a budgeted LCFF entitlement of a little over $60 million, and that equates to almost $1,400 per average daily attendance. So if you think of our average daily attendance percentage as being somewhere around 95%, that means that for every student, we would get about 95% of that ADA per student. Okay. For the high school district, smaller number of students, so you're looking at a smaller budget. We have a base grant of 31.3 million, then you have a grade span adjustment and your supplemental and concentration dollars, which is right around 6 million. And again, that's the dollars that we're looking at when we're talking about the LCAP. It's the actions and services to increase or improve our services to those unduplicated students that we talked about. So total LCFF entitlement in the high school district is 38 million, and then a little under 15,000 per ADA. Often in this presentation, we've talked about the high school district and how it is either basic aid or local control funding formula based. So either community funded or state funded. We are, you look at that $38 million, we're about almost $500,000 away from being community funded. So the LCFF calculation is slightly higher right now than the property tax revenues would generate. But so we're very close, is my point here. And we have been the last few years, and looks like we'll continue to be kind of on the cusp there. That just a quick slide here to just show where does that money go, right? The majority of it in the elementary district and the high school district goes to people. We're a people business, goes to salaries for certificated, salaries for classified, and then the benefits that are associated with those people. And then a smaller amount, around 3%, to books and supplies, and then services and other operating expenditures is like our contracts, our utilities, things like that, like the basics of running the physical plant of the district. In the high school district, it's a slightly different configuration where you see a little bit less of a percentage in staffing and a much higher percentage in services and other operating expenditures. And if you just think about a high school and how it gets used and the facilities that are used and the heating of a pool and the gymnasium, stadium lights and all these things, right? There's just more services and operating expenditures related to a high school district. And also, if you are a twinned employee, meaning that if you are in the elementary district and the high school district, you're covering both, there's a mechanism that we use where we pay folks out of the elementary district and then we bill back the high school district. It's just sort of a way that we handle folks like myself that are one person, but I'm covering two districts. So that also has an impact here. If we look at our elementary unrestricted multi-year projection, you can see that we're, if you look at 24-25, you have your total revenues, your expenditures, and then your contributions, which are when you take money from the general fund or from the unrestricted side of the budget and you contribute to restricted programs like special education. The bulk of that 12.6 million is the district's contribution to that restricted program that, you know, in order to provide the services that those students need.
Special education, what you say, basically.
Most of that
Most
is
of that
that, yeah, primarily is that. So you can see for 24-25, we're running at a slight, well, it's not slight, it's $1.3 million. Let's be honest, a decrease in fund balance. But you can see that when we look at the ending fund balance of that 13.1 million, 3% of it is your minimum reserve. Then we have your stabilization arrangement because there's a 10% cap on reserves per the state. So a couple of years ago, we created this stabilization arrangement. So that means that if you have your 3% economic uncertainty reserve and your additional reserve per the board's direction of wanting to have a reserve up to 17%, what's left of that after that 10% is what's put into the stabilization arrangement. And that is our way. It's a way that many districts are using to meet be compliant with the state's reserve cap, but also, you know, not spend that down just so that we have a 10% reserve, right? So we may come to you in the future, that's first interim, and talk to you about whether money's going into that stabilization arrangement or ask that we can pull money out of that stabilization arrangement. But you can see over the budget year of 24-25 and the 2 out years, we're maintaining our reserves at 14, then 13, and then 14%. So we're going to talk a little bit more closely about reserves in a couple of slides so that you get a better sense of what does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? So some things that are involved in this that I want to highlight around attendance. We are assuming some growth in attendance rates because that was part of the budget reduction, and you've heard you heard Principal Dominguez talk about it. We've been talking about it a lot as a district level cabinet about this effort that we're all going to make to improve our attendance. We've even just from the budget reduction conversations to the end of the year, I think just talking about it and creating awareness around it has caused it to improve. So we've already seen some improvement, but we are looking at an attendance rate that is about 1% higher than where we currently are. So we need to continue to work to make this be realized. We need to hammer in on that attendance and focus on it. This also includes a compensation increase of the cost of living adjustment of 1.07%, and we've assumed that for for both the elementary bargaining unit, the classified bargaining unit, and the high school bargaining unit. Just as we also factor in step and column increases, which is around 1.5 to 1.7% every year. Looking at the high school district, you can see the total revenues, the expenditures. Again, there's that contribution of 9.8 million. Running at a slight decrease in fund balance, but if you look down at that unrestricted reserve, we are just above the state minimum. And I'll talk about why that's concerning. And so we need to work together. It can't just be myself or Taiwo or cabinet or even the board, or it's going to take the entire school community to understand and work together to slowly build up those reserves over time, right? We're able to pay our bills, but we're getting too close to, we're looking in the wallet and there is only, a little bit of, there's only $3 in there.
So much
right?
cash in it, yeah.
We need a little more. So that is sort of the biggest area that I would bring to you tonight as being something I'm worried about. I don't know that we need to, get hyper concerned about it, but it does need to be a lens that we look through when we talk about, oh, I really want this thing, or we really need this new thing. We also need to talk about, if we do that new thing, what old thing are we going to stop doing? That's really how we need to move forward. Okay. Just looking quickly at the restricted resources. So when we talk about restricted dollars, we're talking about title money, ESSER funds, which are COVID related dollars, IDEA funds, which are special education dollars. We have state revenues. We're going to talk a little bit more about these two block grants, the learning recovery and the art, music, instructional materials block grant. And then COVID dollars, special education funds. We're also talking about parcel tax dollars, other local grants, and some transfers from the unrestricted general fund to the restricted side. And so when you're talking about restricted dollars, those are a lot of those are, some of them are ongoing, but the majority of the ones we're talking about here are one-time funds. So we want to see a decrease in fund balance as we are spending those COVID dollars down. So when you see in elementary $3.7 million decreasing in fund balance, that makes sense because that's pretty close to the way that we're spending down our pandemic funds. You can see in both districts, there's still some ending fund balance there that we will talk more about in a future slide. I feel like I'm going kind of quickly. Do you have any questions so far?
You said we'll talk more a little bit about reserves, so, okay.
Sure.
So I'll hold on my questions for that. Thank you. But I don't know if the board, sorry.
No, I was in the same boat.
Okay.
In this, so one thing that I didn't mention at the beginning, and I'll take a moment to mention here, is this presentation is a high level look at the district's budget. And so there are what we call SACS files, or state account code files, that's really where Tylo's doing his work. And those are the files that he's submitting to the county. Another piece to that is a multi-year projection that we create, which shows in a little bit more detail some of the slides that I just showed you about, all of the different revenue sources, the expenditures, the way that the fund balance is divided, and it shows that in higher detail in the budget year and the 2 out years. And so those are linked here in the presentation for people who want to take a deeper look at that multi-year projection. And then the SACS files are always in the folder of the board item, because those are really the files that the county and the state are looking at. Let's talk about the, oh gosh, you know what, I didn't change the title on this. I changed the numbers, but I forgot to change the title. So wherever it says second interim, it's a adopted budget. I'll fix that and update that. So when you look at so first thing is, how is the reserve calculated? You take the unassigned, unrestricted ending fund balance, which is 13.1 million. You may remember that number from an earlier slide. And then you divide that by the total general fund operating expenditure. So that includes both unrestricted and restricted. It's in some ways, I think of it as like almost like a worst case scenario. It's like we're looking at the reserves from the unrestricted side of the budget, but we're comparing that against all of the expenditures we have. And if you think about 14%, if you took that $93.7 million and you just did back of the envelope, I'm going to divide that by 12. What is our monthly expenditures? 14% is about 2 months costs. I think the board many years ago, before I was here, or Taiwo was here, or really most of the people in this room were here, the board decided that they wanted to try to maintain 17%. And I really only learned this year, why is it 17? And there's a reason for that. And it's because 17% of any budget should be about one quarter's worth of expenditures. And so that 17% is probably about 3 months cost. And that's what you often hear when you're talking about reserves, is you should have about enough for 3 months worth of costs. Like if something catastrophic happened and for some reason we had to pay all of our employees, we could do so for, in the elementary district, we could do it for 2 months, right? Obviously there'd be other decisions we would make, right? But in general, that's what they talk about. So when we look at the high school district, when we're at that minimum of 3.25%, we're talking about slightly less than 1 month's costs. So that is why we want to work with everyone in the school and district community to slowly build those reserves back up.
I have questions, but trustees, do you have questions about this reserves? Because I
have questions.
Yeah.
Even with the 14 or even if it's up to 17, so.
Yeah.
It's 3 months of operating costs. However, how can we, like 3 months, how can we, even if something catastrophic happened, like come up with new income or revenue to cover, like it doesn't even seem like 3 months is enough.
I think Udi, if you think about, I think that's a good question. I've thought about this a lot, like what would this look like? And if you think about what would you do in your household, is there might be bills you decide you're not gonna pay, right? There might be things you're going to decide, I'm not gonna do those things because I have to prioritize these other things. And I think we would need to probably go through some sort of a process like that.
So it's enough time to get organized, it's really that 3 months.
Yeah, the state average in reserves, and I looked this up and it's from, what I could find was a report from School Services of California from March of 2023. So relatively recent, a year old. And the average in the elementary districts, I think, was 21%. And in high school districts, I think was 25%. And it really surprised me because I don't know of any districts right now in this county where that have that high of a reserve. But if that's the state average, even 17% is below that state average. So this is the area that I think in the high school district we need to focus on.
Trustee Moore, yeah, I have questions. I know that we don't have a lot of time this evening. so
No,
we're
no,
gonna be late,
the
but
questions
please-
that you've already uplifted were
Yeah.
my questions. I'm pretty sure the questions you're about to ask
Yeah,
are
I'm
important.
similar.
So, yeah.
So when I look at my organizational budget, right, when I'm looking at my budget, one of the things that I looked at is my reserves around what I have accumulated also from years past. So my reserves usually also count, for example, what I put in my little piggy bank for 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and what I have now. And I add interest, right? So sometimes when I have a cash reserve, like those cash reserves include what I put in that piggy bank years back. So I want to understand a little bit of what the discussion with this budget interacts with the reserves that we have allocated in the past. Is this something that we have allocated somewhere where we can then accumulate interest or whatever, so in the future, we can tap into those reserves? I'm trying to understand, because if we have been doing reserve for 17% each year, where those reserves are going, like, I need to understand a little bit, why can we not tap in those past,
I mean, one thing I would say is the high school district, in my recollection going back, has never been at 17.
So we have.
I think the highest it was that I can see was around 11 or 12. So whereas the elementary district, for whatever reason, at one point was able to get to that 17, the high school district never has. There aren't places where we are hiding funds.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but we are never gonna get to that point also because inflation, our budget is increasing every year.
Right.
So obviously, yeah, but please go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, our reserves were higher, but before, but if you go back to the, whenever you have a negative, if you go back to the NYP or something. Or that's good, right there, anyway, so, anytime this is negative, you have to, reserve is like money you have in your bank account, in your savings account, that you're not touching.
But you may touch.
It's gonna stay the same, it's gonna stay relatively the same, if nothing else changed, your expenditures are the same, and you don't put any money in there and you don't lose any money, your reserves level is gonna stay the same.
Yeah.
Reserve is just, your reserve is basically how much you have left over after from your beginning balance, after your ending balance, is how much is left over in the bank at the end of the year. It's not like a constant 17%.
That's what does, it's
So
not
what's
constant.
happening in the high school especially is we took a huge, at one both things, we took a huge amount in the last couple of years, our deficit spending was huge and it's destroyed our reserves. Right, so the problem now is we had 3%, and if we go below 3%, we're gotta go qualified or certified. Right, and we're like I have one little mistake or something, something changing in the state budget or anything, and could drop us below 3%. So that you want to be higher than that, definitely be higher than 3%. And then the reserve is basically just there for an emergency thing. You never actually, you don't ever really use the reserve, and if things are going well. But it's just like a pool of money.
Pool of money, but you're not constantly accumulating so much that we have now 100% in reserve. So
yeah,
that's why it's so urgent.
The way you get it is having, it's just, if we hit here, we be adding 55 to our reserve. Or if we continue to do that, but every time you go negative, you go deficit spending, and we're shrinking our reserves, or it's more and more. All right, so the way to do it is to find a way to spend less than you're taking in for enough years to build it up, so you have 17% or whatever percent mark you want to hit, and then you'll try and stay, just maintain and a close to even amount.
That builds up to my question. That's why the urgency of it, right? Because it's not like the reserves mean that we have been accumulating 17%, which, by the way, the district has not really been able to meet that anyway. So that puts it in a position where the urgency of being able to work on this and figure out what is the urgent thing that we really need to address versus the things that we can live without probably. So I appreciate that explanation because that makes me understand even better the urgency of this. I don't know, Mark, do you have any follow-up questions?
I just have one follow-up on
Yeah.
that, because I think I asked a similar question before, was theoretically, you could have 17% reserve. And I guess it's like, how is that, my understanding is managed at the county office? Because if I take the idea now, it's like, if the cost of living is 1.7%, and then you can get a 4.5% in a short term for a period of time, like, there's an arbitrage there, right? Like, so you could actually build your fund if you're not spending it. However, is there a point at which the county or someone just says, no, you can't, like, we can't have a foundation or an endowment, right? Or how does that, like, so.
Well, I think the unions will, well, if you get your.
The unions.
If you get
Oh,
your
it's like,
reserves to
no.
a ridiculous amount, the unions are gonna come say, why are you hoarding all this money?
Yeah.
But that doesn't
You're way
make
above, you're way above,
But I think what you're getting
Well,
at
hoarding money,
is,
like Harvard has a foundation, like there's foundations, like, or endowments, like you do that on purpose so that you don't have.
Which it seems like what is interesting, because in a
Like, you don't just
nonprofit, we do
drag
that
out of
too.
it just
And a
because you can.
nonprofit would do that too, but it doesn't seem to be the same in this environment, which is interesting.
so there's a couple things to share. One is that when our funds, our public funds, which is probably part of what makes it different than Harvard.
Yes.
Our public funds sit in the county treasury. There is some interest earned. Is it the same kind of a return that we might be able to do in a different location? Probably not. There are definitely some pretty strict parameters around how you can, as a public entity, invest.
That's part of the issue.
And that's, I think that's, I'll just say that's an area that I need to look into a little bit more, because there are aspects of that you can do. We also have what we call Fund 20, which is a liability account that is an offset to the amount that the district could potentially be needing to pay in retiree benefits. And we've been watching that fund pretty closely to see if it's at an appropriate level, whether it's too much, and so that's another place to look at. Of course, that money is also sitting in the county treasury and earning, 1 or 1.5%, 2% or something like that. So there are some, I think, unexplored solutions that I'm dedicated to looking into over the next year with Taiwo and with other people who are experts in the field. And I hope to maybe be able to come back to you with some ideas.
Yeah. Oh, and we're different, right? The school district is in a C3 or a corporation, and how there's some differences there.
And the costs of doing business
it's
have gone up. I mean, it seems like every time
Yeah.
maybe the state funding has come in, everything else has increased as well, so it's.
And we've been running deficit
Everybody gets how that
budgets, right? I mean, we've been running some deficit budgets as well.
We haven't.
Yeah, so that's a reality we need to kind of.
Okay, where were we here? So this is just an updated COVID funding expenditure plan. You can see that along the left side where it says BB and EXP, that stands for beginning balance and expenditures. So you can see each year what the beginning balance was, say in 23-24, and then also in 23-24, we expended the remainder of many of those funds up there. We still have 2 state pandemic grants, the art, music, instructional materials block grant, or what we call 6762, or the other one, which is 7435, or the learning recovery block grant. And you can see how in 23-24, we dipped into those slightly. In 24-25, we'll need to dip into those even more. in fact, in 24-25, we'll expend the art, music, instructional materials block grant. And we will continue to spend down the learning recovery block grant into 25-26. And we actually run up a little bit short in 25-26. So we, not only do we need to, let's say in the high school district, build up reserves, and if the board's goal is 17%, we need to build up some reserves in the elementary as well. We also need to prepare for these funds sunsetting. So we have a lot, I know we went through some trying times this year talking about budget reductions.
Yeah.
We have more to come. We are not alone.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
entire United States is
Going.
dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
So the high school outlook on the COVID dollars is a little better in the sense that it goes out about another year before we fully expend that final learning recovery block grant. And one of the things that the state has been talking about, the state pushed out a lot of money and now they're having budget issues. And so they're kind of like, oh, no, right? Like wanting to kind of pull some of that back in. But instead of doing that, they're talking about now putting a bunch of rules and parameters around how you spend those funds. When districts have been planning going back to 22, 23, 21, 22 about how to use these funds to expand and extend the services to students that were so important to us. And so I'm a little concerned about some of the parameters that the state might come up with and whether that matches with the way we've been planning on spending these funds the whole time. So we'll see what happens. We're just full of good news now, aren't I?
Yes.
This is just a slide that I always like to share that everything that we've talked about tonight is Fund 1. And so you can see that there's lots of other types of funds that we also manage that are kind of like, buckets of paint that we don't mix. They're sort of self-funded. Some of them we contribute to. Some of them are like capital facilities, where do our developer fees go? Where do the leases when we rent facilities go, right? They all go into these separate funds, which then are used commensurate with the way that the allowable uses. So I always like to just share that there's a lot more than just the one fund.
Yeah.
Again, attendance. This is actually not a new slide. This came from the enrollment update that I did. I don't know when that was, several meetings ago.
Yeah.
And this is the gap that we are all charged with closing, right? For the elementary district, you can see the gap. For the high school district, you can see the gap between the enrollment and the attendance. And if we're talking about what is the one thing that we could do to truly improve that budget outlook would be to get our attendance back to pre-pandemic rates. That may have a huge impact on both districts. In summary, so current year deficit spending with the trend to build reserves. Any increases to expenditures in the out years should be commensurate with reductions. We have no business talking about adding things.
Right, no.
Unless we're also reducing things.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the pandemic grants at sunset. The high school district, we talked about needing to develop a strategic plan for building up the reserve level. And I do think we have our union leaders in the high school district are partners with us in that. And I know that they have an acute understanding of this and will be our partners in that. So next step is to close the books on 23-24. That is another moment when the outlook can improve, because when you close the books and you often budget slightly more than you might need. That's good conservative budgeting. And when you close the books, sometimes your ending fund balance will increase a little bit. So we don't know exactly what that looks like yet until we spend, you know, Taiwo and Chris and her team spend almost the entire summer balancing all the resources and closing the books. We'll watch for any revisions from the state. We'll watch enrollment develop. You know, huge enrollment right now in TK. We've hit 250. That's just amazing. We were expecting 200 next year. We're at 250.
Oh, wow.
And again, continue to hold the line on new spending.
Yeah.
So we are certifying as positive. We are able to meet our fiscal obligations.
Yeah.
We also have work to do. That's the end of that presentation. So I'm happy to take any questions or anything like that.
I will ask the board if they have more follow-up questions to reach out to Bob, because we are really running late, so.
Thank you for putting all that together.
I thank you for the explanation about the reserves and taking the time. We were not able to have that presentation, so we were kind of making up for that, so.
And thank you for the additional explanation
Yeah.
earlier.
That's great. All right, so now I'm gonna open it to public comments for the
You're open in elementary already.
open in elementary.
So you need to close, or you need to.
Need to public comments on Zoom person. Closing for elementary, opening for high school. Public comments. Seeing
Same
none. Closing here for high school. All right. Staff, team, sorry so late, trustees. We have a lot to cover this evening, so now we can move on to our LCAP, which is really the meat of our work, and unfortunately, we're running late to discuss, but I look forward to hearing from the team. Superintendent?
Yes, as you know, our LCAP is probably next to the strategic plan, the most important document
That's right.
that we create. We follow basically how we support our students and how we fund that support. So given the fact that we just spoke about our budget, we are looking forward to talking to you about our elementary, also our high school budget. So on that note, what I'd like to do is this is gonna be a staff presentation, a group presentation, so you know the 4 goals in the LCAP for both districts remain the same. And also, it connects our decisions to teaching, learning, and performance data, as you can see. It calls for meaningful engagement and data analysis, and it also unifies, as Bob showed us, all of our funding streams with into one set of goal and actions. So, and of course, our school site plans are aligned with our LCAPs for both the high school and the elementary school districts. And of course, this is updated annually, and it's a living, breathing document. So without further ado, I think Ms. Carino, we have our group set up to speak to these slides, so.
Yeah, a lot of this, these slides we did present last time, but just wanted to bring them up because they are so important to the foundation of the local control and accountability plan. And actually, Assistant Superintendent Marcucci reviewed this in detail in terms of the base grant and then that additional supplemental and concentration. So hopefully this information is familiar to you, that we can move on. Last meeting, you may remember, we did present the goals, descriptions, the state priorities, address the metrics, and spent a good amount of time on the goals and actions for the 4 goal areas. So this time we have some new elements to discuss to add to that content. We do have the full versions available, printed, so the board members have one. There were 2 for the public, so I'm wondering if those in the audience found them or they walked out with the surplus property, folks.
Yeah.
But we do have different ones available.
Sure, they're very interested in this.
Yes. And most importantly, they are available online, and I'll show you later where those are. But seeing that this does tie into the budget presentation, and we spent a majority of the last meeting diving into the content, we are keeping it at a little bit of a higher level this time, and providing opportunity for the public to present their feedback as well as the board. So some of the highlights we want to talk about, of course, Superintendent Geisel's mentioned our 4 goal areas remaining the same. We wanted to kind of focus a little bit on how we engaged our community throughout this process. As you may recall, when we welcomed Superintendent Geisel at the beginning of the year, we did start our plan to refresh our strategic plan, Together 2024, which I think everybody is familiar with. So we saw the opportunity of having a new superintendent, having a new LCAP development, with an opportunity to refresh that strategic plan. So we conducted many community listening sessions with various targeted groups. And that was successful in terms of asking the community what's working, what's not working, what can we do better, and aligning with our values of Santa Fe City Schools. We also had an additional tool online, so it was available to all of our stakeholders. And then as we were working down that path, we did pivot necessarily to our budget reduction process, which actually very much aligns with where we are as a district in terms of ensuring what we are doing is meeting the needs of our families and students and not much more. Because of that, not much more in terms of our resources going away, especially those state grants. So we had many different opportunities for community input listed there for that budget reduction process, which I think everybody remembers well. So lots of in-person meetings, lots of board updates, and again, another online survey to collect feedback. And then always throughout the year, there are opportunities for input that informs our strategic plan and our local control and accountability plan. We like to say that you're most likely not in Santa Fe City Schools gonna find the LCAP stakeholder group, because we like to say that everything we do, all the opportunities for engagement throughout the year are informing that LCAP. It's not just one group looking at different areas. It's all of these tools working together, all of these opportunities for input that culminates with our document, our plan. A lot of the recent board meetings were spent looking back on how we were doing on each of those goal areas that you may remember, and hearing from our community and hearing from you, the board, what's working well in those goal areas and what's not, as we can refine our new LCAP. A lot of the budget calculations that Bob talked about for how we get to the numbers that are represented in the LCAP are also displayed in what the state calls the budget overview for parents. Anything you want to call out here, Bob?
No, it's just really high level look of what the revenues are for and budgeted expenditure totals for high needs kids, and it explains any difference between the prior year and current year expenditures. So it's just a parent friendly way to look at the whole LCAP from a budget lens.
Great. And those documents are linked there. And speaking of further documents, last time we presented that high level overview of the metrics, goals, and actions. So you could think of it as an executive summary of what is the meat, what is the content of the LCAP. So those are linked there and available. It's a much more reader friendly version of the larger documents, which are now available and continuously updated in our public folder that's linked. There's a separate folder for elementary, there's a separate folder for high school, and it contains all of the state documents, including the budget overview for parents that we just discussed. It contains the LCAP annual update, which looks backwards on this current school year and assesses and gives us an opportunity to reflect on what's working. And then again, our 2024 LCAP looking at the next year ahead. So again, this is our final draft for review and input, and most importantly, a public hearing tonight on the documents that have been made publicly available. We do anticipate next Monday, June 17th, the board having any final discussion and anticipated board approval of the local control and accountability plan that coincides with the budget adoption as well. There is the state mandated June 30th deadline for any board approved LCAP, so just keeping that in mind. And then after the board hopefully approves the LCAPs, then they go on to the Marin County Office of Education, who has the opportunity to review and provide feedback, as they always do. Sometimes, most often, they're very technical notes that we work to update and comply with later this summer. So wanted to give an opportunity again for the public to make comments and the board as well.
Opening to public hearing, any members of the public on Zoom or in person? All right, so do we have more presentations from the team? Christina, to see if we can open it for trustee questions or? Oh, we're just waiting for trustee questions. Oh, interesting, okay. Trustee questions?
I just have one question in regards to the CFF budget overview for parents. How does that get distributed to parents? In what mechanism is that? Is that print? Is that parents? I'm just very curious about that part.
I think in the past, it sort of comes as a package with the LCAP.
Okay.
And gets posted on our website and I don't know that we print copies and send them out to.
Oh, no, I
schools,
guess I'm just curious about,
yeah,
it's new to me, so I'm just for information. I like this. I like that there's something that's accessible. I'm just curious about what the process is like. Great, it's approved, it's done. How do parents get to know that this has happened? It doesn't have to answer now, just something for later.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation we should
Yeah, I think traditionally we have, thinking back to the Together 2024, we've shared out that document many times with our community because it is such a user-friendly. And now that we do not have that strategic plan refreshed, which is certainly okay, given our status, we can think about how we can share these documents with our community in that more user-friendly way.
Learned a lot from the Together 2024 process of how we can engage in community in a way that's accessible for all families as well and community partners. And I just want to continue that same success from that with even more technical documents like this. Thank you.
Trustee Kern.
Yeah, I have some questions about, so when I'm looking at the high school goals and some of the outcomes. So I see a lot of great goals for some of the challenges we see in the school, or maybe for underserved or underrepresented. I'm also curious about how we're contributing or helping those who are maybe in middle performance to make sure they're getting access to all the programs and benefits that are available to them as well. And then also for the kids that are in advanced programs, things like that, what they're that they're being pushed forward as well, or getting some kind of rigor to take advantage of all the opportunities they have for them. And if there's like benchmarks across different schools in the districts in terms of how those perform, they may be in here. I didn't see any, or I'd like to just kind of point out any of those that are in these goals that represents that group as well.
That's a really good question. Part of that is the function of the LCAP. The LCAP function really is to capture the money that we're spending for our unduplicated students. So you're not gonna see everything we're doing in the district represented in the LCAP. So for instance, what you won't see in the LCAP is an allocation of FTE to offer advanced placement courses, but that's something that we do. You saw in Mr. Dominguez's presentation earlier today, there's 13 advanced placement courses that are not, those are just the courses. So each course might have 5 sections of that course. So the numbers of students that are in our advanced placement courses are very high. We don't put it in the LCAP because we're not using title dollars or supplemental and concentration dollars for that. So I think that's a challenge in the LCAP, is it's not fully representative of all the work that we're doing. And I think that's part of what you're seeing. In terms of the metrics that are in there, in terms of graduation rate, UC A to G rate, that's a metric for advanced students or for, middle performing students. Does that answer the question?
It does. Is there also I guess I don't understand in the schools how our high school students are their opportunities in going into universities, right, at their different levels. So if someone's performing at level X, that they have grades aren't necessarily the best measure of it, but let's just say that it's by grade point average or something like that. Are those kids getting accepted into the same level of universities and things like that, that same cohort at a similar district or in the area would be getting into? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's hard to,
Yeah, so
it's sectional, it's gonna be very different because we have a very different demographic, right? Of like, so. But it seems like it's per cohort, there might be some way to benchmark those.
And I think that's a complex question that I'm not gonna be able to answer for you. I think what I'm hearing you say is, does a 4.0 student at Terra Linda get into some of the same schools that a 4.0 student at TAM or in a high school in SFUSD get into? Is that?
Yeah, if grade, like I said, grade point average is good, but whatever that level of person would be in terms of, you know, what they've accomplished, or volunteering or their grade or just all their accomplishments they have, is it the same?
I think Katie and Joe would be able to tell you more specifically about what colleges our students are getting into, but we're getting students into, I mean, Tess Waddy, one of our board student reps, got into UCLA, which is tied for one of the best public schools in the country, so. And so we're definitely sending kids to wonderful schools across the country. Universities really set their own standards, and some of that has to do with GPA, right? A lot of it has to do also looking at what high schools offer and the challenge that students take. So if we offer 25 AP courses and a student takes 2, universities see that as the student didn't take the most rigorous course offerings possible. Whereas you might see a school in the inner city with less funding offer 3 AP courses and a student takes all 3. That student has maximized the level of rigor that their school has to offer and ups their chance to get in to a highly selective.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, I just want to say that the San Francisco Chronicle put a whole article where you can, it's a database that you can go by high school and see what the admission rates at UCs, for example. So it's very interesting because the high school in the entire state of California that has the highest admission rate in Berkeley is Mission High. But you can say for example, Terra Linda and San Rafael, about 75% of the students that apply for UCs are getting into UCs. So that's a metric that we can see, and it's actually a very good resource that I recommend boards to be familiar with.
I believe we have the highest in Marin County.
Yeah, and if you compare, for UCs, yes. If you go, for example, for TAM and RC Williams, we have a higher admission rate than other schools in Marin County.
So what's great about this too, is like that getting, it'd be great to hear about that more too, because that's just exciting for the entire school.
It's a good way to sell our district to parents.
Yeah, so and actually you brought up the exact point, it's not GPA, it's like this person maybe or the student maybe has a lower GPA, but they took 5 AP classes, they really challenged themselves, which makes a lot of sense, right? They're going to have more grit going into this, so maybe the UCs accept that, but understanding, I don't know how you do this, but getting the students who are capable of that too, to understand that that's what they should be doing rather than maybe taking the easy route out. If there's some kind of
motivation.
Yeah, if there's a goal around how we capture those kids too, to get them there, would be interesting.
And I think what we've had in our past LCAP is equal opportunity schools work that has been in our past LCAP, and that was a grant funded opportunity where we actually recruited students of color and low income students who were underrepresented in our AP classes to attend our AP classes. And we've seen, we saw single digit increases this year, but the past 2 years, double digit increases in the numbers of low income and students of color in our advanced placement classes. But due to budget cuts, we've cut that program. But our 2 comprehensive high school sites are going to continue that work without equal opportunity schools next year. So advanced placement enrollment is like a huge priority for both of our principals. Katie Dunlap, it's like her #1 thing she wears on her shirt sleeve is academic excellence at Terra Linda High School.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so more questions, please?
I'm gonna pause there for now.
Okay, So I do have a question, and again, I know this stuff is, I'm sure everybody's ready to go, but I do have a question in terms of, and I'm glad Mark, you asked that question, because the strategic plan, and I understand the superintendent had a very busy year. But the advantages of the strategic plan is that you can in the future incorporate things that are not necessarily in the LCAP only, right? So you can address some of these questions and like, how do you address some of the things that are outside or our funding formula that you need to address. So I think this is something that the staff, not saying that we should go and run and try to do this, but consider all the ways to communicate these programmatic things that we're trying to do. So are we updating also the Together 2024 in parallel to this and maybe do both things at once so that we can have the LCAP and maybe have some updates and some other
The
things?
plan is to do that in
Okay.
the fall.
In the
and
fall.
then look at this, and also as Bob said,
Yeah.
no new initiatives.
And no new initiatives. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look into what
Yeah.
we can refine and
Yeah.
really review it.
Yeah, I like that approach. I think our union partners, our staff has been telling us over and over again that we need to focus on what we have, over the strategies that the staff spend so much time developing. But I think it's worth looking at some other strategic things that are included in the
Right.
LCAP. The other thing I wanted to ask is overall, so what I'm trying, because this is so much information, and again, a recognition to everyone who's trying to do this work, right, because it's a lot. But I would love to see a little bit of metrics, not just the tools we're using for metrics. So when I talk about metrics, we say we're gonna use iReady. So iReady is a tool for metrics, right? But what I would like to see is something that says our math and reading scores are this, and we would like to increase it 5%. And I know there's some of this here in the some of that, and it's just, so I don't know, there's so much information here that I wonder if there's a way to just summarize it in high level and say, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 2%, I don't know, something that tells me that we have a goal of reading in math, that it's that this
So a
is possible.
challenge of when the LCAP has to be completed
Yeah.
is that school's not done
Yeah,
yet, and
I
we
remember
also
that from
don't
last
have
year.
past
Yeah.
scores. So we actually, our window for, and I'll use iReady as an example, but consider this to be true for everything,
Yeah.
right? School
Yeah.
learning is still happening, and it's our job to make sure we capture as much of that to kind of have a full picture. So the iReady window, for example, just closed. And so we weren't able, because those windows weren't closed, we can't pull that data quickly enough to get it in here. So what you'll see in there is, because this is a new 3-year LCAP that will then roll, is you have as much baseline data as we had when we were finishing this last week. And then you'll see at the end the goal for overtime. And then as we continue to bring reports to you, we will bring you especially like that academic roadmap, what those updated scores are. Cassie actually was just pulling some data for me today. But a lot of that has to do with the timing of when this is due as compared to when the assessments are done. We won't have all of our SBAC data back until the fall. And so then we can provide that updated data, and we will make sure that's in next year's LCAP with updated for next year, but knowing it'll still be a little off because of the timeline of when these things are due and when the school year closes.
But can we refer to data from last year and the year before?
So we can for some metrics, so for
Okay.
example, SBAC, right? But iReady is, again, this is where it gets a little nuanced, but iReady is new for us this year. In TK5, in K5, next year it'll be new in 612. So you'll see these metrics continue to grow as we have more data. But for the ones that we had previously, certainly.
Okay.
And for example, I just pulled up your goal 1, some of your metrics here, so starting on page 10. You can see how this baseline column is what
The
we have,
updated.
and this is where we're aiming to be in 3 years. So you can see, again, this is that iReady that Stephanie was referring to. The DNF list, so the data, if it is at all available, it is in here at this time.
Which is hard to read, I have to confess. So that's why I was asking for like highlights, and I think last year we had this conversation, you told me the exact same thing, that we just don't have the current data. So I guess maybe Cassie, who's great with data presentation, can tell us very high level, because it's a lot of acronyms, there's a lot of like things that the board has to follow. So I would really appreciate some sort of high level goals around math and reading, if possible.
Yes, would you like that when we have the updated data in the fall, would that be
When
okay?
you can,
Okay,
I know you have a lot of your.
So we
plate.
can present that
So-
to you.
so we can make sure we get
Okay,
that to you,
yeah. That would be
and
great.
then cast and the other data that
That would be
comes.
great. I think that's what we, I think the board would love to see that too.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you
That
so
would
much
be-
for all your hard work. Much appreciated. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, the staff.
Yeah.
All right, so, and where's my agenda? I think I can let you all go because we're gonna go in closed session, right? Or no, we have one more thing. Sorry, first reading. Oh, that's right. I have to open and close.
Yeah.
But open session I opened the hearing for elementary. Public comments, seeing none, I close it. I'll open for high school. Comments, seeing none, I close it for high school. Thank you for the reminder, Maureen. All right. First reading. Oh my goodness, team, I'm so sorry so late.
I will move as quickly
Yeah,
as
thank you.
possible through this.
Thank you.
So just a quick overview of what Secondary Curriculum Advisory Council is and who's there. It's a body that meets monthly to approve texts, text adoptions, novels, and new courses or CTE pathways. And the group is made up of administrators, counselors. We have a parent on there, would love to have more parent participation next year, and a lot of teachers. And what the body does, the committee does, is a teacher will say, hey, I wanna use this new novel, it's not an approved novel, can I present it to the Secondary Curriculum Advisory Council? They do a presentation, they leave the meeting, we have some conversation about it, then in the next meeting it comes back, kind of a first reading, second reading, and the curriculum council either approves or denies the new novel, the new textbook, or the new course. So it's kind of a formal body, and then the last two board meetings, what we do is we bring you this first reading and then an approval at the last board meeting of the year. So that's something we've done for as long as I've been here and probably many years before that. So that's just a brief overview of what the curriculum council does. This year, we approved 22 new courses. AP Psychology, AP World History are two of the advanced placement courses that we approved. We also approved interesting other courses like filmmaking, music production, and computer science. So you're seeing a broad range of different courses that either an administrative team, a department, or a single teacher is saying, hey, this is something we want to offer our students. 22 new courses this year, it was a big year.
That's great, good work, Tyler.
We did 14 course name changes. A lot of that work was actually with Director Perez, Cecilia, myself, and site teams kind of reorganizing the way our ELD pathways are gonna look. So this is kind of more of an organizational thing that we did, which I think will set things up really nicely for next year. We had 5 novels approved. One was actually written by a student who attended our schools. That text was called Solito, and then Rising Class is another example. So 2 really great texts. Or those are novels. We also approved 9 textbooks for classes like AP Psychology, AP World History. We approved iReady as an interim assessment, 3 different CTE pathways. And this year, I'm actually really proud of our curriculum council. We denied 5 courses. 5 courses came to the body and we said, we're not gonna approve those courses due to specific things that the council discussed. So this is not just a rubber stamp committee where someone brings a course, we automatically say yes. There's an authentic dialogue and a rigorous process to either approve or deny a course from coming. So you can see in your packet a list of courses, happy to answer questions. And we intend to bring this to the board next meeting for approval.
That's great. Questions from the board? I have a question for now. Open to the board.
You said you had one parent
Yes.
on this? It seems like this, I'm sorry, I didn't see all the courses on, I will take a closer look at this. That does seem like it would be a place where getting more parents on would be a huge benefit. So I don't know how we get that presented out or pull them in, but it'd be great to get a broad group of the communities to do that.
Absolutely. This has been a really tough one historically to get parents to come to. It's very, very in the weeds. When you've got teachers talking about that stuff, but this, you're right, this would be a wonderful area for more parent participation.
I think all of these like volunteer things are challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can change how we invite the parents. Maybe they're just part of the process, but not the entire process, so they can also weigh in somehow.
Right.
Yeah, or kind of see it while it's going
Yeah.
through it, like, yeah.
It would be a way to, well, we can discuss that, because the committee is already there, right? You're just wanting us to approve is basically the new courses, the new course names, and the new books that are here.
Yep. 22 new courses, 14 course name changes, novels, textbooks, and interim assessment.
So I see some of these courses here, I'm the
Is there a
trustee.
page number
no,
that
never
this
mind.
is on?
Yeah, no, it's actually on the
It's on the-
agenda,
on the-
it's on the agenda.
Oh, it's just under.
Yeah,
the
I know.
courses, the actual
Yeah,
course?
but no, you
Oh,
have to go
yes,
to the
there's
digital
course-
agenda.
Online.
Oh, it's all online. Got it.
It's all online, yeah, it is.
I have my,
Yeah, you just have the printed one, yeah. So, what if we would like to teach something like financial literacy or civics, right? The board has interest in this. Shall the board reach out to this committee or should the board, how we can go about having that discussion if we feel that it's very important for our district to have education around those two things?
Yeah, it's a great idea. There have been conversations about that in the past. Some of the consequences for that would be that there'd be fewer other electives course are offered. And if you wanted to make it a graduation requirement, you'd have to offer quite a few sections. So those would be the types of discussions that we'd need to have. That would all impact budget and the master schedules at the high schools. But that has been a topic of conversation. Typically, what you need is a champion from the classroom, a classroom teacher, to say, I want to teach this, and I'd like to bring it to curriculum council.
Yeah, we have things, so psychology, great, but also social justice and education. We have management of events. I love the fact that we have a lot of coding and things of that nature, but maybe civics education should be a priority. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I think that's woven into our graduation requirement, our.
in history, US history.
It's not world history, US history, it's is it we've got government class. There's a semester course for econ and a semester course for gov. So that government class is actually all about the structure of our government, how it works, how you can engage as a citizen. And that is part of our graduation requirements already. So civics would be part of that, in addition to probably our US and world history.
Okay, and I know there's a state proposal to potentially add financial literacy, so I don't know what's gonna happen with that. We'll see. Okay, Tyler, thank you so much. This is the first reading, so
Yes.
right now we'll wait for approval next time. I'll see you. Will we see you next in the board meeting?
See you on Monday.
See you on Monday.
on Monday.
Right. All right, there's so much to discuss. Whew, what a day. All right. So I think we can adjourn open session now. Open comments, public comments. Seeing none.
There's nobody else.
Okay. This is like no one is here. All right, team, I think before we go to closed session, you can leave, but before we go in closed session,
Before we go into closed session, I wanted to share publicly that I need to recuse myself for 2 discussion points in regards to the surplus property discussion. As an employee of Community Action Marin has put a bid for some of these sites and or is currently leasing 2 of these sites. And so with that, I wanted to share and put, just for transparency for everyone, before any closed session or any discussion, I will be saying this same statement over and over and over again. Please note that I will be able to hear in public comment about these sites if it's in public discussion. So I just wanted to follow the parameters. But the 2 sites that I have to recuse myself are the Corp Yard and the Old Galena site. Thank you.
Thank you.